he's happy. He's sorry. I'm talking before we start recording, but I'll say that again afterwards. But yeah, the newer one, the way it ends is just man.
Yeah, I'm confused.
Really?
Confused at what?
What, Emmanuel or the films?
No, I'm just. Well, I mean, Emmanuel in general, but no, the earlier film, I'm just. No, sorry, the later film, I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm not sure what the point of that was.
Interesting. But we can get into it in a minute. I think I get it, but
Yeah, just
Yeah, I'm still-
I have started recording when I realized that the movies were coming up.
No,
I like how that was introduced though. Just on an unrelated note, I'm going to talk about the films.
that's on brand.
Perfect film.
yeah.
On a completely tangential note, I will now talk about this.
Sorry about that. If you are recording, if you want to start, you can. I was gonna say, Ben, why did you pick these films?
Why did you do this to us?
I won't say it good because even though I do agree that they are brilliant, they're kind of like, I felt obviously for the longest time I wanted to do a David Lynch film, and Elephant Man was definitely in the running for this for years now. Since Film Club began, Elephant Man has been on my pick list, and I think many David Lynch films have been on Rob's pick list as well. So it's about time one of us actually we did it, for hopefully more to come very soon. So I was like, yeah, this, and sadly, as these things often happen, it takes the death of someone incredible for me to like, oh yeah, actually I should do it this week as a tribute for this great creative mind. But what a better way to celebrate David Lynch's legacy with something like I agree, one of his best, most thought-provoking, most like subtle films he's done. I think, even if it might not be the most iconic of his back catalogue, I think it's one of his best in terms of execution and just like the output and final piece in general. It just is kind of a perfect film in a lot of ways, despite it being quite dark and quite melancholic. It is a film of like great importance, kind of like something that should be revered and looked at every few decades, just because of how important it is and how impactful it has been into filmmaking and just storytelling in general, and just representing the true accounts of a real life person who had all these things happen to him. So it's one of those true stories that has such an impact that has to be kind of like told throughout the generations because of how important of a message it represents. And so, yeah, I thought Elephant Man is just one of those films. The more I see it, the more I appreciate. And sure, it isn't the most enjoyable film to watch, but it's one of those that you appreciate every thought and every choice that goes into making what it is. The acting, the cinematography, the writing, every bit of dialogue, every bit of like production choice and costume and everything is just like, yeah, we're going to tell the story the best it can be possibly done. Just this representation and idea of how to kind of like tell this true story. Kind of, there are some embellishments to it, but overall, it is very true to the real accounts of what happened to Jonathan Merrick when he was living. Your name, Joseph, as it was later found out, is Joseph. Yes. David Lynch did not know that when he finished the film. It wasn't until after that his name was Joseph. But yeah, it's just, yeah, it's obviously we'll go into it more. But yeah, I think there's so much about this film that can be analysed and talked about because of all the themes and all the great ideas and things that it represents, when presented in the 1800s when Merrick was alive, represented when it was made, when the film was made in the late 70s, 80s, and represented now. All these elements are still relevant to this day. And that brings me to A Different Man, which I'll briefly talk about now. But the reason I picked it because of like how kind of like universally relatable this film is as well, and how relevant and how much not only just the themes are being similar, but how kind of like, yeah, this is a very unusual concept of a film that you don't see much of these days in a world and a film and like a cinematic world that we live in, where it's just kind of like constant like franchises, sequels and reboots, all sorts of stuff that we can't escape from. And there's very little original films that really have an impact. And Different Man, I think, was one of the few that stands out for being not only original, for being different, having something to say, and just being very kind of unique about all of those elements. And yeah, what makes us who we are? What does it mean to be a good person in a weird and beautiful world while you're surrounded by other people who judge you from what you look like? And that's the central theme of both films in a way. So yeah, I think it's one of those modern films that I don't think anyone would have probably checked out, apart from maybe me and Rob, and Alec if he is free to see it. So it's just, I felt it was like, yeah, we had to have a film like this because of, yeah, it's just a great talking point. For better or worse, it just has a lot of interesting points to talk about in terms of how vulnerable we are as people, how kind of like we're obsessed with the aesthetics of how someone looks and how they are as a person reflects on kind of like how we judge people. So it all comes into play of like all those things of just kind of like having empathy for someone that might not have it on the surface, but in deep down has a lot of vulnerabilities and internal demons and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's my meandering introduction. So whoever wants to say something, you may go.
You may.
I don't want to blow your mind, but I enjoyed Elephant Man more than Different Man.
That doesn't surprise me because I would say that is the superior film.
Yeah, same.
But I still love Different Man, but as compared to like Different Elephant Man, that film,
Different Elephant Man.
Elephant Man, I've lived with and watched for years, so it's kind of like one of those things. It's watching an old favorite time and time again. Different Man is so new. It came out literally 4 months ago, so it's just so goddamn fresh, and it needs to kind of like dwell with us and kind of that simmer and kind of like stew a bit before we kind of like really dissect the importance of it over the years. I think that's the only thing that has lacking. So yeah, continue.
I don't think it's actually nostalgia this time because I've not seen either of these before. But yeah, I found all of the awkward conversation bit like far harder to watch. I was just anytime there's a conversation with Ingrid, I'm just like, oh, please stop. Like it's just, I don't know. She just asks like so many like just, I don't know. Like just not even like uncomfortable questions, just like conversations you wouldn't ask another adult person. Just when she's like, would you ever kill yourself? I'm just like, fucking hell. Like that's like rule number one. Don't ever ask anyone that ever. And then he's like, oh, what about you? And then she's like, oh yeah. Oh, I mean, what a question. Oh, I mean, I did ask it. And then she doesn't answer it. And I was just like, but she just spends the whole time just talking about herself. I don't know. Just I found that infinitely more uncomfortable to watch than anything in the Elephant Man. I thought Elephant Man was like really, really thoughtful. I thought it was like a perfect response to The Greatest Showman. Just by virtue that like the freaks had like they had at least two voices to them. Like there was they weren't just one singular entity, like all acting as one, or coming X-Men at the end. That was that was quite nice. But yeah, just Anthony Hopkins is just the fucking G as always. And yeah, John Hurt's great as well. I did appreciate that the first thing he said after trying to act around the makeup was they finally made me hate acting. But then handed in that performance, I thought that was pretty cool. Also, just something I appreciated. I don't know if anyone knows about the alderman, like right at the beginning, who's trying to shut down the act kind of thing, like right at the start. And that's actually the grandson of Frederick Treves.
I didn't know.
That's like,
that's the real man.
That's fucking sick. Yeah. So I was like, but like just that level of like, I don't know, just that level of like, I'm gonna go find Frederick Treves' like relative and just see if he wants to be in the movie. I thought that was pretty neat. But yeah, I just yeah. Big ups on the Elephant Man. I'm full disclosure. I'm still kind of going through Different Man, so I'll come back to you. But just I think I appreciated Different Man more by the halfway mark because I kind of I understood more like what the joke was. But yeah, Sebastian Stan, he's so good that I was sure that he was the guy, and I was getting really angry, and I was just like, I can't believe they didn't credit Adam Pearson. Like, it's Adam Pearson doing this. Like, what the fuck? And now I'm watching it the second time. I'm like, oh no, I can hear it, Sebastian Stan.
But to be fair, I had the same reaction.
I was like, how's this allowed? How has no one got angry?
Yeah, that was a funny experience. The exact same thing happened to me. I thought that was, I didn't know that was Sebastian Stan at first. Yeah,
it's just testament to him as an actor. Like he's fucking wasted at Marvel, obviously. I was like, I mean, obviously the prosthetics doing like a lot of the work, but I just took the hook, line, and sinker. I was like, yeah, that's Adam Pearson.
But he still carries it in the second half as well. He's still like just as compelling, even if you think he's like, oh, this guy is a bit messed up and he has so many issues, but you're still enthralled by him.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, when we went to watch it in the cinema, so I for the first like however long of the film, I was the same. I was going like, oh yeah, it's Adam Pearson. And then when Adam Pearson actually showed up, I was like, whoa. I was like, oh, actually, now you see him side by side, you can tell. But
I wrote in my notes like, oh, Sebastian Stan is doing a really good job of like carrying on Adam Pearson's like mannerisms and stuff. Like, but he's still doing the same person. Oh, that was funny. Oh.
That's the thing, though, right? Because it's like it's not even just the prosthetic; it's like how he's holding his body as well.
Yes.
Like it's so like spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sebastian. Yeah, I don't know how he did it. Oh, also one thing quickly to add, to blow your mind further with Different Man. Sebastian Stan filmed this entirely out of order, and I know that many films are kind of like filmed out of sync, but this was mental because he kind of had to play like how he was at the end of the film versus how he was at the beginning. He's playing Oswald playing like Guy, and then going back and forth day by day, different scenes. So I don't know how the hell he wasn't confused by like who he was at any given point, because going back from how he was at the beginning to how he was at the end is just like it's just a yo-yo of like insane performance, because it's the progression of the film makes sense when you watch it, but filming it out of order is I can't get my head around that.
It's I don't like you when I first learned like how little like actors can be working with in terms of just like continuity and like their surroundings and how much they have to rely on like their imagination and skill as an actor. to be able to pull off
Yeah.
something so artistically. It's so impressive.
Yeah, it's cool in general working with actors. Like I've worked on both sides, like acting myself, but also on the crew side, and seeing different people, different styles, get into the roles, get into those places, and put themselves in that mindset for what they would be at that point in time in the story. And yeah, it's cool. Like both of these films, it feels like they were really in touch with doing it as justice as possible, of course, which I'm really glad about. Yeah, the first one again, very good. I'm glad how he ended it as well. I don't think, don't think. I haven't actually. I've never seen a David Lynch film. I thought I did, but I never have. I've heard his name many times and like known to be like talented and good at the multiple things he does. And he did the sound design as well. He was on the sound design part for that film, which I thought was cool. Makes sense with he does music and stuff as well. But anyway, for a different man, it was hard to watch his grappling with everything, and yeah, his denial of self, but at the same time, how could someone like live life with similar to what I was going through? Like, how can they do that? I could not do that. Why? And that struggle, that dichotomy he was going through, that was hard to watch. And then it was mental at the end. I think there was one point I had to pause. I was like, oh my goodness, what is he doing when he showed up on stage? But they were still kind to him and still looking after him, even though he was having a mental breakdown. A lot of people in America would not do that. In a city like they were. They are quite, both of them, the characters, Ingrid and Oswald, are the type of people who would help, though, if there's anyone who would help. And then afterwards, when he just stabbed the guy and just lost it, it's like, whoa. And yes, of course, it's been many years. The fact that they're still able to kind of, I guess, treat him in the way that, you know what, he went through some stuff. He's come back to society. Let's just meet up like old times and talk through things, And yeah, that last shot was kind of unsettling, though. I have to say, is where he broke the fourth wall to look into the camera. It reminds me of certain kind of media when a villain looks into the camera, and you're just like, oh crap, what's gonna happen next? Oh wait, it's a cliffhanger. Okay.
Well, that was sort of like where I started getting confused at what the point of it was, because like he killed the bloke, and then he went to jail, and then he was an old man, and then he met up with Adam Pearson and Ingrid, and they were like, "We're joining a nudist colony." And I was like, "All right," and then they're like, "You haven't changed," and he goes, "No, I have not," and then that's the end. And I was like, "All right, I'm not what." Like, maybe I'm just missing something obvious. I was just like, oh, well, I think we missed a scene.
Well, no, I feel like what my read of it was, we were left to one. Yeah, I do feel like they were leaving us to just wonder, like, what, like, was that a smile of like he's broken again and he's gonna kill somebody again, or um, or if he's like truly just, I don't know. Yeah, actually, based on what he had done like before he went to jail, I don't know. It's an interesting question to wonder. But yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's probably like my big criticism as A Different Man, because it's sort of, I felt like all the way through, the way it kind of like slowly builds, and you're just kind of like going along with him kind of like coming to terms with him thinking that his biggest problem's been solved with his face being like, you know, a typical face now rather than what it was, and then sort of realizing that maybe that wasn't his problem all along, and that, you know, it's a bit deeper than just what he looks like, kind of thing. I really enjoyed all that, and then when it sort of like ramps up in like the last 15 minutes, I'm kind of going like, oh, hang on, we don't have to like keep going higher and higher on this one.
It seems to be like an A24 thing where, like, did you see what was that Nick Cage one about the dreams?
Dream Scenario.
Yeah.
What was it?
Dream Scenario.
Dream Scenario. Yeah, that was another one that just kind of seemed to keep building, and then it went, and there you go. And I was like,
I know what you mean. It was great, and it's just a bit about it. Just like, something stops it from being like fantastic, you know. I feel
it's the ending.
I feel like in Different Man's case, because it kind of like the whole thing about him just like stabbing that guy right at the end is so out of left field. But I feel like it came from a place where he's still very defensive about how he looked and how he used to look and how Adam he looks, because he relates to Adam because he looks like who he used to be, and him being so kind of like, you know, what was it, the carer or the house? I can't remember who he was now, but the guy that comes in and assaults Oswald's look just because of how he is and how he looks and his disfigurement. And so that's why Edward just snaps, because he's like, look, I don't give a crap anymore about any of this. So you don't dare talk about how this man looks, and you don't think you're better than him in any way. That was him just kind of like taking out the whole entire film's frustration on one person, kind of thing. Everything he went through is just kind of like gone out, just like it just exploded out of him. It's just the part after that is a bit like, oh, now he's in prison and now he's out, and it's just like, yeah, it's literally the Sebastian Stan meme of just.
That is the thing for me, right? So it's like, I think I would have preferred it if maybe it just sort of like cut to black before he stabbed him, and then you were left to wonder like how he handled that situation. Because I think by that point, you know enough about him, and like, you know enough about sort of where he is in the world and where he sees himself and that kind of thing, that you can kind of have your own interpretation of it, and that'd be fine. But I think him stabbing him and then everything afterwards being on fast forward to the point that, like, you know, then, well, like you said, they're now in a nudist colony and all of this stuff. I was kind of going like, I don't know if I needed all that. Like, I don't.
Yeah, it's amazing they're still friends with him as well. I know that obviously he was close to them for a while, but the fact they're still like, yeah, he murdered someone in cold blood, and it's kind of like they're just
FYI to everybody, if you stab my personal trainer in my flat, we're not on screen.
Yeah, personal trainer, that's weird. Yeah, it's meant. Yeah, I think it didn't need to be said. It didn't need to be said. It kind of like the thing about the film goes into your, like, the watchers and viewers' imagination, because he kind of like, yeah, we're not gonna hold the audience's hand throughout this. Just, we don't need to. It's just the final act kind of was like, okay, so there's a lot of like elapsing time, and it's not that kind of film where you need to have that. So I kind of get the point. It was like, well, yeah, he will change over time, but it wasn't really necessary. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it ended just at the moment of him stabbing him or just before, perfect. I wouldn't have any qualms there.
I got the sense that so I could give my opening statement and I can't remember like
Mhm.
am I just doing one movie right now or both?
No, I did both.
Both, as we've gone, we've skipped ahead.
Yeah, we could do both. Okay, yeah. So I'll start with I just uploaded my scores for Elephant Man, and Ben might not be too surprised about this because he knows that I have trouble with older movies. I'm so sorry, but yeah, I tend to like favor modern movies for like their modern effects and styles and um vibes, I guess you could say. I don't know how best to explain it. Um, so yeah, of the two, I did enjoy A Different Man better for
Corey, what are you doing to me?
I'll explain. um, so yeah, primarily for the acting I enjoyed better in A Different Man. And the production I thought like the way it was shot and like I don't know the proper terms for these things, but like the filter that they used or they just made it just looked like
Cinematography.
cinematography you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the cinematography, like I appreciated like the artistic style of it. It was just like an interesting movie visually for me. And and the production like and it was very effective. I think it was very unusual and really yeah, the effects of it, the special effects, the makeup was outstanding as we've established because I thought that was Adam Pearson at first for a long time. And uh yeah, primarily as and Sebastian Stan was like wonderful. The story was wackadoodle and very, very creative. I loved like the self-reference and like the meta of it all. I thought that was it was very unpredictable for me. I didn't know what was happening. At certain points, I was a little like overwhelmed and confused, and like I felt like I was like losing track of like threads and like trying to keep it all together. Um, yeah, I like hearing how you guys have been talking about how the story kind of culminates. Um, I do think, yeah, I think it would have been better to cut it off earlier. I agree. But yeah, I just thought it like the themes of both these movies were just like really brilliant. I'm glad that these were picked, and I think these will be great to talk over. In particular, the theme of just like the the impact and role that appearance plays in our society is just like massive, and I think it's very useful and important to talk about. Um, and so yeah, so overall, I was quite I found A Different Man to be very impactful. And very and also with the like sound design and the music too, really worked for me. To set the mood and really immersed me in the mood of the movie. Um, so and going on to the Elephant Man, my like challenges more with that like were like the acting of it was it John Hurt that was playing John Merrick. It took me a while to put my
Yeah.
thumb on and like what was like the biggest barrier for me and like sinking into this film and connecting with it. I think his the way he either way he played his character or the way he was directed. I don't know. I have sometimes have trouble of like pinpointing like where it starts to fall apart for me, but something with him and how he was portrayed didn't really land with me as well as I would have hoped. So there were some like scenes, like significant scenes that just didn't land with me. I felt like sometimes maybe it could have also been attributed to the dialogue and his lines. I think were a bit like straightforward and like lacking like subtlety, and I think maybe some of the ways that some of the scenes were directed as well. unfortunately, I hate to say, I feel bad because I know why this movie was picked. This movie was picked. Rest in peace, David Lynch. But yeah, this was just I don't know. Like,
Rest in peace, David Lynch, but you made a shit film and I hate it.
and I hate to say also, like, I actually don't have much context for David Lynch. Like, it took me. It wasn't only until like my later adult life that I started to kind of keep track of like more than the obvious directors. So, I might have seen another David Lynch film, but I'm just not sure at this point. But anything anyway, more. I did really. Anthony Hopkins was fantastic, brilliant. I've never seen him go wrong. And he just like he was my favorite experience in this movie by far. Very touching stuff. And yeah, so I feel like yeah, in the character John Merrick, it being from the 80s, like there is something to say for just like, like things weren't as progressed by that point in time. And I feel like The Different Man gave the like what was Sebastian Stan's character name in Different Man?
Edward.
Edward. So obviously Edward and John Merrick have big parallels. I feel like the character of Edward was more well-rounded and developed and complex, and I felt like that was kind of lacking with the character of John Merrick. I kind of wish I could get him to know him a bit better, and see more sides to him. But there were a lot of heartwarming ways that the other characters in the story supported John and protected John, and it was in a lot of ways touching. But yeah, the story was like great. I just think the packaging didn't work for me. Not necessarily. I might tweak my scores a bit because like I struggle when something doesn't fit my personal taste. Like, and then I struggle to see like the technical merit of it all. So I'll have to think more of it all. So my scores aren't set in stone. So, but those are yeah. So anyway, yeah. Sorry, I'll stop. I think I got all the main points out. But yeah, sorry of to not have enjoyed the elephant as much, but I'm the minority, so you guys are in good company. Yeah.
That's all right. Don't worry. Like
No,
it adds to the conversations. I wonder, like you were saying, they have very different acting styles, but due to the acting of the time, and John Hurt's acting, for me made like complete sense, but maybe I'm looking at it expecting him to act and talk the way he is because of the time he's in, and the propriety, I think that's the right word, of it all, of what you have to carry yourself with, of how you have to kind of go about things and what you have to do in that juxtaposition with the crap abusive guy and the really poor folks. It just living their life or whatever it is. It's an interesting one because it's exactly what I expected when I said not expected. Sorry, it's exactly what I expected after I started watching it. Like after it started setting the scene, it kind of just like, oh yeah, this is really, really good. It's like on point. But again, these days, I could imagine it would seem quite wooden because I feel like, I don't know, and maybe it's just my personal opinion, but I feel like it could feel like that even back then with how you had to put on airs and you had to kind of act and speak in a certain way. And he's trying to do this properly for the first time in who knows how many years since he was a little kid. It's just like I was just like, that's really good, really good.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything dated or weird about the acting, at least in my opinion. Whether that's a factual thing or not, it's just because of not only was it made in the 80s, but the fact it's set in the 1880s, 100-year difference. Set in the UK, very British, upper class. The doctors are very kind of like well spoken. They're all very stoic and kind of like, you have to speak proper, you have to like enunciate, you have to do this and that. And everyone has this sort of role to play in society in that era, where everyone is so like politeness and manners is everything. And that's kind of still not really gone away in some parts of the UK. But back then...
it was the 1980s.
Yeah. Back then, especially in the 1880s, it was just like, yeah, that's kind of like who you had to be in those times. So I feel like, obviously, Anthony Hopkins goes without saying, he aced that. And all the doctors around him, I forget their names, and the old British actors have played his superior, and the other doctors in kind of like the board where they had to vote and stuff. They all kind of like have this certain way of speaking and the way of and presenting themselves. And John Merrick has to kind of like feel like he has to kind of like fall into this mold, and for him to be accepted. So he kind of like, maybe his natural accent was not like that, or how he had to speak is kind of like determined by the people around him and the kind of like the upper classness of all these people that Treves kind of like gets to see him once he's in the hospital, and all these people that kind of fawn over him are very like of their nouveau-riche, kind of like very posh, kind of like, compared to like when he was in the Freak Show, you had all the working class poor people just gawking at him for different reasons. So that's what's so good about the film. It has the two sides of like Great Britain in that era, London the way it was. For better or worse, it represented both sides of the same coin in a sense. And that's kind of like the great thing about the film, was how it kind of like represents the two themes of like, was Treves ultimately doing it out of the goodness of his own heart, or was he just doing it to kind of like get himself a leg up in the field of medicine, and just going on to that kind of showcasing Merrick to his doctor friends, just to kind of like get respect out of them and stuff like that. And just it's that's why the character of the nurse, the head nurse, she's so important to the story. Kind of makes him see sense and kind of like makes him question himself. And the arc he goes through, Treves' arc is so special because of he realizes like, yeah, actually, I'm kind of parading John Merrick the same way he was paraded around in the Freak Show, and that doesn't make it, just because he's got a nice comfortable bed to sleep, doesn't make it any better. He was still kind of abusing him and utilizing him for his own gain. And obviously the two villains, so good, like the Bites character, just so focused on like, he was so messed up, and it's brutal, you know, he focused on kind of like self-fulfilling needs and stuff. And the other character, I forget his name, but basically the Bill Sykes type character. There's a lot of Charles Dickens parallels in the story. Yeah, that's what I meant. And the fact they kind of both are kind of utilizing and making money off his suffering. And one does it in a brutal way, one does it in a kind of like, yeah, I'm a mate kind of thing. It's kind of like butters him up and makes him feel like he's wanted, but at the end of the day, he's still you're still a thing to be laughed and gawked at. And so yeah, and Treves does fall in the three categories, but thankfully he realizes and changes for the better, and manages to kind of like, yeah, I need to, what have I become? I'm becoming just like these two men. So yeah, that's what's so good about this film, the layers on it, and it's just how it like how faith brings hope and happiness to like such a dark, dire situation. And it's kind of like, you know, you've got Treves being the scientific mind and John Merrick being far more like innocent, childlike, but he has faith and he has spirituality. And it's a bit like the fact that the kind of like there's this separation of church and state going on as well. It's like what makes his science ultimately better, his vision better. It's kind of, it makes you think, it's like, yeah, no, Merrick, despite everything he went through, despite all the abuse and hatred and everything, he still resolved to be a kind and decent man. And that's kind of like the main moral of the story, is that he is who he is underneath. Despite what he looks like, he still chooses to be a decent man. So yeah.
I really love seeing the like growth. What was Anthony Hopkins' character's name? Treves. Right?
Treves.
Yeah. It was really, I love like what is not to like about somebody who will stop and like look inwardly and ask themselves like, do they have like integrity in this situation? Like, were my motives honorable? And yeah, I do think I loved that. Was one of my favorite scenes. Really, really good to see. Obviously he did mismanage the care of John, you know, way too much went under the radar, obviously. But all was made well in the end, thankfully.
I think that was something I really appreciate about his character, and I don't know how much of it is the direction or Anthony Hopkins, but like I really appreciate when he was like trying to teach John like how to speak, and like you could see him getting like frustrated at it, but he was going like, yeah, and he was like, no, you're doing very well, just, you know, just it's not quite there, just say hello, my name is John Merrick. But like you can kind of see him fighting himself a little bit, and I thought that was really neat. But yeah, just having those little moments of introspection was like very important for him. I thought, like, I don't know, I think he snuck into like one of my favorite characters list, kind of thing, which I lasted about Terence Stamp and Priscilla. But
It was nice.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say it was really nice to see young Anthony Hopkins, or younger Anthony Hopkins. Yeah, it was really nice to see him in general.
Yeah. I was just gonna say I really liked in terms of like favorite characters, Mrs. Mothershead, I think was her name. Yeah, she really started to grow on me when I started to see how like fiercely like protective she was of John Merrick. I have a favorite to say later, but yeah, she really grew on.
She went on. I really liked her arc as well. When she starts off and she's just kind of like she's being quite hard with him because she thinks he's being difficult or like he's not responding, and like about the halfway point, she's like genuinely quite concerned for him, and she's just like, "Why are you bringing people in from high society? What do you do?" And he's just like, "Oh, well, you used to be a dick to him." She's just like, "Well, maybe I was, but you're just making a spectacle of him all over again." And she refers to him as John, and it's like, yeah, I really like how that's like progressed.
Yeah, she was great for that reason, because she kind of like, she knows that she was wrong, but the fact that over time she's realized, no, he's just someone that I need to respect.
He's
kind of like, yeah,
he's just a happy chappy.
It's just a normal guy underneath all that, and that's the thing. And it's just like she realizes that, yeah, he's just another patient in the hospital, no different than anyone else. And it didn't take her long to realize that. And that's so good about the two of the characters. They have their flaws and their prejudices that are kind of questioned because of Merrick's appearance, and I think that's really interesting. They managed to change and evolve because of someone like him. It's a shame that it takes someone like him to kind of like make them turn and reconsider what they're have been doing before. But I think that's what's beautiful about it, is that it doesn't take them long to realize that actually, hang on, this is just a normal man that we need to respect and care for, and he's no different. And he may look different, but it doesn't matter, because ultimately it's who he is inside, and that's what's interesting, important about it. Yeah.
I also enjoyed how fucking British it was.
Yeah.
Like that bit where Bites is coming up the stairs and he's all like, "How did you get up here?" And then it all just kind of like devolves into like, "I should go to the authorities." And then his boss is like, "Go to the authorities and we shall tell them all our stories."
Yeah.
Very well. And then he's just like, I shall meet your man. And I'm just like, in a modern film that just goes straight to that. But he's just like, I will meet your man. And he's like, only if it's convenient. And he's like, yes, 2 this afternoon. Oh, thank you, sir. Oh, no. It's just like,
it's all prim and proper. It's all, yeah.
That's my culture there. How you doing, Rob? You okay? You got a bit quiet.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. You carry on.
Kind of ran out of steam there.
Use me as a button.
Yeah, I'll find it again. It's so good. Yeah, I also loved Kenny Baker showing up. The way
he was wonderful. Yeah, that's one of his earliest appearances. Obviously outside of Star Wars, of course.
Yeah. Well, and then when he sees him being mistreated, and he goes, and then when he gets startled and he goes, "What?" those are great.
Who was the weird person in Star Wars?
Kenny Baker. He played R2-D2 inside R2-D2, obviously.
The show.
Cool.
Was he?
He was the little dwarfy man.
Oh.
Yeah, he was the one that helped save Merrick at the end from the freak show in France, I think.
I didn't know he was R2-D2. Oh, that's wonderful.
Just in Star Wars, and not in Nine Room.
Right.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I just want to randomly throw in the funniness of British properness and knowing no bounds. It's really adorable. It's reminding me of the first time Ben was annoyed with something and he goes, "I'm cross." It was just so adorable. Wow.
I'm terribly cross.
Cute. Yeah, that's adorable.
Yeah, got awfully cross about that. Those bloody burnt crumpets.
I'm going to write a letter, a very, very severe one.
It's a very severe, stern letter to the Queen.
Oh, then you'll know.
Yeah.
So funny.
That's funny.
The American and the Canadian is just like that is.
You funny Brits.
One thing I wanted to add, quickly, is that Pat in his voice message said about it's kind of like a monster movie, and I feel like he is right, also wrong at the same time. I feel like it's an antithesis of a monster movie in the sense that John Merrick, he appears monstrous, but in the end, it's the people around him that are the monsters. It's the porter. They're the monsters, and it's kind of that's kind of like the interesting thing about it is that it kind of Merrick is just this victim of circumstance and just like horrible situation of how he is growing up, and it's kind of. It is, like I said before, it's very, very Charles Dickens in terms of a tale. Obviously, it's based on the true story, but I feel like David Lynch managed to kind of bring in this Dickensian whimsy, but also this melancholy as well. It's just got this kind of like timeless quality of it being a tale that will live on. And he managed to convey that really well in the story of it just being like, it's kind of like a warning and a kind of like cautionary tale of something that could happen anytime, any era. Hence, I feel it's quite a timeless film. It didn't have to be set in that era, but I feel that aesthetically it makes the most sense to be of that time because you kind of accept the way poor John Merrick had to go through all this grief and anguish just to kind of be accepted and respected.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to describe it as a monster movie. But I think that's why this was quite an interesting double bill, though, is because it's. I mean, obviously, with The Elephant Man, it's quite like tragic, and there's a lot to be sad about. And I think you did quite well in terms of like picking something that's. I mean, I know we've all been talking about like how rough it is as a double bill, but I think you did quite well in picking something that kind of lightens it a bit as well, because you've got one film that's kind of going like, this is how awful it can be to be this kind of person in this world, and then you got the other one that's kind of going, that still can happen, but you're not bound to it. Like your life doesn't have to be tragic if you're disabled.
Yeah, that's what's great about Adam Pearson's character in Different Man, Oswald, because he kind of like, he has all these issues, he has this physical disfigurement, but he's still vying to be a great actor. And then when this script comes on where he's just like, yeah, this is my calling, this is the script for me, and I can like knock everyone's socks off, and he kind of has no shame or no kind of fear, and he kind of like goes headfirst into it all and just blows everyone away. And that's kind of like blows Edward's mind, because he's kind of like, hang on, he isn't ashamed or kind of like self-conscious about himself. Surely he might be, but at the same time, he kind of doesn't represent that or showcase that externally. And Edward is so struggling with those two things. He can't figure that out, how to kind of separate the two. And he just thinks, oh no, I have to be beautiful and perfect in order to get anywhere in life.
Yeah,
Edward's got quite a dark aura, and he's kind of. I think when you see Adam Pearson, you kind of go like, "Oh, yeah, he kind of defeated himself before he began." It's entirely possible to live a normal life. But
I think that's the thing. Like, it's kind of like it's almost like they took Edward out of The Elephant Man and dropped him into the modern day. And then you've got Adam Pearson. And I think that's another thing that's really interesting about it as a film, is that Adam Pearson was involved in it. Because like when you've got somebody who's actually like, you know, lived that life involved in the film, I think you naturally get a bit more nuance to it. But I mean, I don't think nuance would have been the right thing for The Elephant Man, given it was set in the 1800s. But I guess, it's an interesting contrast when you've got them back to back.
I think it's good as well, because like, you have like just kind of the message of sort of like just human dignity. And like, he's not very nice to look at, but he's still a person. He's still a human being, and he still deserves like the rights of anyone else, like regardless of what. And then you move on to this, and you kind of go like, oh, the mistreatment. It's not like to the same level. It's either a lot subtler, or it's kind of Edward imposing it on himself, because it's like when he's in the tube and he's seeing people look at him, and I think he's kind of like, not necessarily to say that there's not intent behind it, but I feel like some of it's like projecting some things. So like there are teenagers laughing at, like, just clearly looking at him and laughing, and it's like, okay, they might not be talking about me, but it is weird that they're laughing and looking at me. And then he looks at a woman, and the woman avoids her like eye contact and everything. And it's like, okay, well, you know, that was kind of like a neutral reaction. That was sort of like, she might be trying not to be rude, like by staring, or you know, she might just go like, oh, geez. But then you got the third guy who's just got his sunglasses on, and he's smirking, and he can't see what he's looking at. But he's just kind of like, it's kind of like a neutral. He's kind of like a neutral face that I feel like Edward's kind of gone, he's fucking looking at me. He might not be looking at me. I don't want to cause a scene, but it looks like he's looking at me and going, and like, I think you have that question of how much he's imposing the mistreatment onto himself rather than it being as explicit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he would be reading into a lot. I loved that part of the story in A Different Man. The comparing, seeing Edward see what his life could have been if he had acted more like Oswald and if he had had the same attitude and approach to life and perspective on everything. And it was sad to watch actually because maybe I might have been transferring this onto him as a character, but I felt like maybe he was frustrated with himself for how he dealt
Yeah.
with his difference compared to Oswald and
Yeah.
how he could see how different their lives ended up. And he was probably, I would think that he was probably being hard on himself for how much he possibly had limited himself, um, and how much more he could have accomplished without changing his appearance at all. I think that's like wonderful. I think um I just like that was touched on subtly in the movie. For me, I just love that I've learned like, everybody it touches on the subject of how like we're all so different and like each two people would be given like maybe like identical problems but will respond differently to them depending on who we are as a person. And there's neither like what I want to maybe this would make it kind of a different movie, but like I liked that I've learned that like, there's nothing wrong with either way you respond. It's like we're different. There's no like judgment to be put on yourself for like how you dealt with something like a hardship. Um, I think what I'm sad about for Edward is that he couldn't. It seemed to me that he couldn't let go of like the years he lost, like suffering and hiding himself and limiting himself.
Mm.
I wish for him that he could have like eventually broken free and allowed himself um to be more open to the possibilities of what he could have for himself, regardless of what he looks like, whether he looks like, what he ended up looking like or whether he looked like before. Like as we see in the movie, like appearance is only part of the package, and a lot
Mm.
is comes from what your perspective is and what's in your mind and attitude. And yeah, I just, but like, wow, yeah, I think I like my interpretation is like he was being hard on himself. He was frustrated with himself, and like that's not an easy situation to be in. Looks do matter a lot in this world, and so yeah,
Mm.
that was sad to see how like frustrated and hard on himself was.
Yeah, it's that old that analogy that people use in it, where they say that you could have two twin brothers, and one would say that they're an alcoholic because their dad was, and the other would say that they're not an alcoholic because their dad was. And it's like they're both products of the same world, but they've just gone in completely different directions with it. And yeah, I think that's why. I think that's why this was quite sort of nicely put together, because you've got the world where as it is in The Elephant Man, and then two very different reactions to that world in a different time in a different man. I also thought The Elephant Man was quite interesting as a David Lynch tribute, because I feel like this was before David Lynch kind of like settled into what you typically think of as a David Lynch film. So it's quite nice to kind of like go back and sort of look at something that's not typical of what he went on to do.
This is only my second David Lynch film. So,
what was your first?
Dune.
Oh, yeah, two very untypical David Lynch.
Not Corey. Not that Dune.
No, I haven't. You're talking about the original one, right? The old one.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one.
With Sting.
Sting in his big plasticine underpants.
I reckon it. I don't know. I was going to say if Dune wasn't based on Gene, it would have been received better, but I'm not sure I do believe that.
Well, if David Lynch could have done his version of Dune without any studio interference, it would have been more appreciated, because I think the studio wanted it to be, let's make a Star Wars film, Star Wars type movie, let's make it this next big franchise, and it was never meant to be that. And so David Lynch was kind of like, it was torn from his hands, and they kind of made it something it wasn't.
I realised I've inadvertently set the stage for Emmanuel to go on a massive tangent.
It's doing time.
I was just gonna comment that I agree with Ben, even though I don't know anywhere near as much as Ben. Like it's proven with what we've seen with Dune these days. While it's in some kind of sci-fi-ish future kind of thing, it's very far from what you'd expect from Star Wars, even though Star Wars did take things from it.
Yeah.
And yeah, while the biggest story, there is stuff that happens in space. Like most of the story ain't there, at least in the first few books, anyway. But whatever. It's a shame he didn't get to do what he wanted.
But that was always the thing, because Pat was under the impression that he really didn't like David Lynch, but the only two films that he'd seen was Dune and Eraserhead, and it's like, well, you need to give yourself a run up for Eraserhead, and Dune's not really his film.
Speaking.
Sorry, what is Razorhead, real quick?
Eraserhead was David Lynch's first film, and it's like this really kind of like experimental art house horror. But it's very like, I can't even think of something to compare it to. But it's very much like you have to sit and work out what it is you're watching. Like it doesn't help you at all. And if you're not picking up on kind of like the visual cues and like the kind of the sort of like I suppose like the visual language that it's using, you're done. You've got to be like a very like active viewer to get it, and I don't think Pat went in with that mindset.
I do want to return to the monster movie comment, because I do feel like Elephant Man is sort of the anti-monster movie. Like,
that's what I said earlier. 100% right.
Yeah, like I think just structure-wise, like because I was thinking about when Simon was talking about Room, and he was like, "No, we need to see the kidnapper. We should not see the kidnapper for like the first 40 minutes." And it was like, I don't know. I think I was just picturing Elephant Man going on that long, and they go, and here he is. And it's like, oh yeah, well, that was a waste of fucking time. But yeah, I don't even necessarily. I don't know. When I was doing my impact school, I was looking at reviews and stuff, and obviously you guys all know my feelings on Roger Ebert. But he was one of the few who didn't really get the film, and he was like, I don't know. It's like it's putting up a lot of questions about the human condition and that, and I'm not sure what it's saying. And I was just like I don't know. I feel like it's pretty clear about what it's saying. But I don't know. Even just kind of like the idea of, oh, people are the monsters. I was like, I don't know how much it is saying that. I feel like it's kind of saying like, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously not saying human monsters. Like people are the monsters. But I was like, I don't really know how much it's saying people are the monsters. I think it's saying like, I don't know. Even when you're looking at the character of the Night Porter, he wasn't like in his mind. He wasn't like he didn't think he was doing anything wrong. He thought he was just having a laugh and everything. And like, obviously, that's like enormously fucking mistaken as a worldview. But like, I don't know. I think he just to him it wasn't necessarily morally wrong because he didn't consider he considered the disfigurement to like make him something else. and I think it's sort of like fighting that misunderstanding or like that misconception, which would have been like really, really common in 1980. I don't like the idea that he's saying that people are the real monsters, kind of thing. I think he's trying to say it's more complicated than that, and it's like people who don't understand it mistreat him. Because even when you look at how Bites treats him, Bites doesn't fully like think he's dirt, but because he calls him his treasure, and I was like, oh, that's a lovely little choice of word there, because it really like just he has to put it in materialistic terms. He is his treasure. He's something very precious to him, but it's something that ultimately is like a commodification of him. And it's like lovely, really cool. It's like my precious or something like that. Where like it's sort of like elevated him, but in a way that is his. And the reason that Bites mistreats him is when he feels that John is acting out against him or trying to undermine him, trying to embarrass him and everything, and he doesn't like understand that John's body is just kind of like it's not his and it is failing, and like yeah, I think it's like the misunderstanding that it's commenting on rather than innately everyone's shit.
I think it definitely said that like some of their behavior was monstrous to John. And yeah, when you say like the interaction, the relationship between Bites and John, like he valued John only for like what he could give him, and he like the whole and what off the bat he said like I'm John's owner. Like John is not a person. He's not someone who has any like rights as a person. He is an object that is of high value to him for his own sake. So yeah, lots of difficult things to watch in that one. How he was treated, it was awful.
But I like how it brings out it brings Treves out like as a character, because it's sort of like you can see when he first approaches him, he's trying to do it as civilly as he can, and like he's trying to do it as under the radar as he can. But the more Bites is going like he's the greatest freak in the world, it's like all right, and that's when he starts. That's like I think that's like the first show of him like kind of losing his temper, but it's still very restrained, and it's very like, all right, well, if you want a livelihood, you're gonna have to stop wasting my time. We need to get him in a cab. And like that's as far as it's going. But it's only, but like he gets pushed a couple of times in it, and it's when Bite starts really, really aggressively pushing back at him that he's like, right, and that's when he actually has like a proper go at him. That's what it takes. And he's just like this. He's not yours. He's like, you know. And the other one's with the night porter. He's when like John's gone missing and like he's just like lost all composure, and he's doing like the "don't fucking lie to me"
Yeah,
thing.
that
like,
was great.
It's yeah, and it's so much more powerful because Reeves is a very restrained character like throughout, and he's like he's assertive, but he's not necessarily, because he got his mate and he's going like, "What have you got here?" And he's just like, "Okay, would you mind please just keeping this to yourself?" And he's like, "You've got something good," and then he's like, "Yeah, please keep it to yourself." He's not like begging him, but he's just kind of like, I'm asking you politely, please don't. He's being like assertive, and then it's only like those moments where he actually like shouts out where you go, "Cool, this is a big fucking deal to him."
Yeah.
And him like embracing him as well. I think that answers the whole thing of, was he doing it for selfish reasons? And then when they finally get him back from the train station and he gives him like the biggest hug ever, it's just like, yeah, it was important for you to question it, but I think in that moment you kind of have that answered, like, no, he's your friend, and you genuinely cared for him. He wasn't just a means to an end for you. Like, really, really, really cool little film. Really like that. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think it definitely that relationship between Treves and John definitely went through a big arc in its own. because I remember Treves called John in the very beginning, and I winked at it. It was awful to hear John being referred to as it. Like Treves himself called John it at the very beginning, and I did think my perception was that it did start off as like a scientific, like medical endeavor purely, not an interest in the welfare of John at first. And
Yeah.
over time.
He starts off as a courier, and that was kind of like Treves'. The guilty part of him speaking out later in the film was that, yeah, he was just a curiosity, just to kind of like big himself up a bit. And that's the tragic thing, is that Merrick, he's like, despite everything he'd gone through, and that scene, what I think that's really hits me home, is that when Treves says to the other doctor, just like, I hope he's an idiot. At that moment where he just thinks, because I think deep down he didn't want him to be intelligent. He wished he wasn't, because he had felt guilt, and not only for himself but for Merrick too. And just like, yeah, if he was a smart man underneath all, it would make it so much worse for him. And suddenly that was the truth. That was the truth. He was a smart man. He was an intelligent human being. Like the real John Merrick, if you guys didn't know, he wasn't born with this disfigurement. He kind of developed it when he was growing up as a kid, and it only got worse in his teens to an extent where it was so bad he eventually kind of like went out into the world to try and find money for what he looked like. It was his decision to go out there and make himself a spectacle, because he knew that was the only thing that would get him like some sort of like income, because everywhere else he tried to get money, he just was being shunned away for his appearance. And it just got worse because he had an abusive father. Once his mother died, his father and stepmother were just really awful, downright evil to him, who beat him. And now, obviously, in those days, you couldn't get any help or medical attention because they didn't understand or know what was wrong with him. Just kept getting worse and worse and worse, to the extent we saw him in the film, where it covers 90% of his body. And by then, he was just living in the circus. And yeah, he wasn't captured or forced to go into circus. It was his choice. He chose to become a attraction in the freak show because he had no choice. He had no way of getting any kind of like income or living anywhere else. And the workhouses would not accept him anymore because it got so bad. So it was so interesting that David Lynch decides to tell the story from the point of him being kind of like this puppet to rights. He was just got so bad that he was just like he was just an attraction for him, and he was the worst part of his life, just in his 20s, just doing that. So yeah, it's horrible for that reason. And it's kind of like, despite all that, I feel that he's still he's just strived to normality. He didn't want anything kind of like crazy or complicated. I think that was the hardest and saddest thing about the film entirely, because Merrick just wanted to be normal. He just wanted to be able to sleep like a normal person. It wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't anything absolutely unobtainable. But for him, it was like, yeah, he couldn't do anything crazy, but he just wanted to have a normal life. He just wanted to just blend into the crowds. And obviously that's all shattered when the porter and his cronies just show him the mirror, which was brilliantly kind of like foretold in that dream sequence, or was it a dream sequence where he has that shock of seeing his reflection for the first time, and then they show it to him when they go back into his room. And yeah, it's just so horrible because it's kind of like he knows he's horrible. He looks the way he looks and being forced with that is just a reminder. Not the shock of him seeing the way he looks like. That's not shocking to him. It's just a reminder of who he is. Because the moments before, he's just like, he's in his suit, he's all dressed properly, looks amazing. He's got his like aftershave. He's just acting like a normal gent. He's just trying to be like a normal man, and it's just thrown to the curb once the porter and his entourage come in and wreck it all. So yeah, there's just so much there that I thought that was tragic in every sense, because it's just like, yeah, just leave him alone. So yeah, it's the antithesis of the monster movie, because he isn't the monster. He never has been, and he never was at any point. Yeah.
I mean, the way I was reading it was like, it wasn't necessarily that like the people were the monsters or anything like that. It was more, I suppose, the idea that like anyone can be a monster to the person he wants them to be, or not wants them to be, but the person he sees them as one, kind of thing. And I think you become part of that, because if you're sort of looking at it and going, they're acting like monsters, you're kind of falling into the same thing. But it's just that there's a lot of background to it in terms of like, you know, just the attitude of the world at the time and how people treated one another at the time as well. And then obviously we were talking about like that sort of British politeness thing. Like there's a lot of repressed feelings going on as well. Yeah, there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to another man.
Oops, sorry, I was talking.
No, wait, a different man.
Another man. Yeah.
Sorry, Corey.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I was talking and I forgot I was muted. But yeah, I was just gonna say that actually the whole British properness and especially back in that time, 1880, that definitely does help my view of like how John acted, like put on this persona to kind of help himself fit in better. Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, very interesting. I think one thing I wanted to talk about for a different man is because the director, Adam Schimberg, if that's his name, I think he wouldn't, when he was making this, wanted to kind of like tell a story and create a film that kind of like was constructed to represent differently abled people with disfigurements, people that looked strange, people that had some sort of like deformity kind of thing. And it kind of raised the question when he was making it, is like, should regular actors play people with deformities? Is that right or wrong? And should it be limited to just people with disabilities only? Or should it be limited to people with should it be limited to like people like who understand? It's a weird one, because it's kind of like, if it was limited to just people with disabilities only, does that mean it's discriminating them for only a certain type of role? And I think, obviously, we probably talked about this before when Peter Dinklage made those comments about the dwarves in the new Snow White movie. And yeah, if you're going to be playing dwarves, you're going to be discriminated to just playing this. And we little people don't want to be doing those roles. And it kind of caused a bit of an uproar, because of kind of like, yeah, maybe some actors might feel that way, but not all of actors do, because if you take them out of the equation, if they can't play people with their own like ailments, then who are they able to play? Because if normal actors are going to be taking the roles from people with disabilities, then they're going to be screwed either way, because they can't play people with disabilities, because it's discrimination if they can't, because the other actors taken. It's a hell of a lot of a crazy rigmarole. So I feel like the director kind of like created this film to be like, look, this is an interesting way of kind of like representing is like, we can get an actor like Sebastian Stan, a very conventionally looking American Hollywood actor, but we're still going to find a way to include a person with deformities like Adam Pearson, and we're going to mesh the two together in a way that kind of honors both. And I feel that this film kind of did that really well, because you can see that the respect and intricacies that goes into Sebastian Stan's performance, because he has Adam Pearson there to kind of guide him through it behind the scenes. And Adam Pearson still has a role to play, and a very impactful one, in the second half of the film, where it kind of dictates the entire story, and it turns the whole film on its head because of his appearance. So I feel like, yeah, this is quite a good way to go about it, because you kind of, it's the best of both worlds. You're kind of giving a person with this figment a point and role in the film, and you're allowing an actor to kind of honor them with prosthetics and makeup. And I suppose either way, you could argue that there's pros and cons to either side. But I feel it's important to kind of represent how people view differently able-to people. People with these things wrong with them, and it just allows you to kind of like get more comfortable and more exposed to it, because not everyone's going to be exposed to this sort of thing, and it kind of gives normal, well, and I say normal in a very broad sense, just people that have very little wrong with themselves going out to meet someone like this in real life. It doesn't give them this fear or this strange kind of like feeling that you might have if it was an unusual thing. So I felt that this film was very important. It normalizes it all, and being set in New York kind of grounds it quite considerably. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, I feel that's one of my biggest takeaway of the film, was that it was really clever how they managed to kind of address both of those issues in one.
I think it all depends on like the approach you take, really. I think there's a do you know Wanda?
Yeah, I haven't seen
that.
Wanda, yes. I was like, Wanda? Like Wanda, the woman, or
It's Wanda in like the sense of
British accents. In my accent, you would have known right away.
Wanda.
Okay, everyone, let's all adopt Connery's accent.
That was like, so I don't know, it's hard to be like too harsh on it, because the actor that you're talking about is like 10. But I think the criticism, like, rather than being the actor himself, is like it's of kind of like the people behind the film, because I can't remember the name of the condition now, but it's about a kid who has this condition, and then they casted this kid who doesn't have the condition and put prosthetics on him and all that kind of stuff. But the problem is that they weren't really informed by anyone with that condition. So it was kind of just seen as like, oh, we can just take this actor, put some makeup on him, and then he can go and play somebody with this condition. And I don't think it's that simple. But I don't think you have to be from that kind of like background to be able to play a character of that background either. I think you just need to be like respectful of it. So it's something that Mo does really well again. So his brother, like Mo's brother in the series, is I think he has Asperger's or some form of autism. And when me and Rachel were watching it, we were like, oh, I wonder if the actor actually has that as well. And it turned out he doesn't. But apparently his performance in it is like really well respected by people with it, because he like went out and met people with it and did like just like loads and loads and loads of research up until the point where it just became like a really authentic performance. And I think that's kind of like, you know, if you're doing that, then that's fine. Like, I think anyone can do anything. But I think if you're just going at it from the angle of like anyone can do anything and they don't need to try, then that's the problem.
Yeah, take that, Taika Waititi.
Yeah, you kind of need to do your research, as it comes down to a lot of things. So if you work hard and do your research and respect whoever you is you're trying to represent, you kind of not in the sense get away with it. That's not the right way of it. But you kind of approach this subject in a more tasteful and more respectful way. And yeah, that's kind of it's like how I view like when Tom Hanks played the gay man in Philadelphia. Yeah, sure, he's not gay. He's taking away a role from a real gay.
The character's name,
person.
or was it the movie name?
Yeah, he's taken away something else. But the fact that someone like Tom Hanks would have gone out of his way to kind of like, research and understand the real man he was portraying, and that's ultimately the main goal of any actor. You kind of pretending to be someone you're not, but you're doing it in a very authentic, convincing way to kind of like allow the audience to get absorbed and kind of be sucked into the world that you're kind of representing on film. And that's the key thing. If you're questioning it at any point in the movie, then the illusion of the acting just goes out the window. If you're like watching this actor play a dwarf or something, or a small person or some kind of like disfigurement, whoever it is, and you're kind of like, no, this seems caricature, this seems insulting, this seems a bit wrong, that's when they're not doing it right. And you kind of already get a sense that they're not trying and they're not doing the job hard enough. Whereas Sebastian Stan in this kind of he fooled us all. We all thought he was Adam Pearson. That should tell us everything. And it goes without saying that Adam Pearson was there, and he was there guiding and helping and advising Sebastian Stan's performance behind the scenes. And the director himself too was one of those people, because the previous film he did was with Adam Pearson, all about his condition. I forget the name of it, but I think the previous film they did together was a very similar subject matter in terms of someone with Adam Pearson's kind of like ailments. So this was a continuation of that theme in a more Hollywoodish, you could call it that, a more kind of like cinematic approach. So they already had this repertoire of just being like, we can tell stories that aren't being told by this marginalized people, so we need to keep doing it. And they found a way to tell this very unique story and get someone like Sebastian Stan, who's known for his big blockbusters and Marvel films, and that they needed someone with a face that everyone knew and kind of like was familiar with, to kind of ease the regular audiences in to kind of like this world that might not be familiar to most.
I think this came up. I think it probably has come up a couple of times at least in Film Club, but it definitely, I remember it came up in when we were talking about Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. It's and obviously a different man like really directly addressed it. It was very just built into the story of like how this should be done in a creative project. And what I had said with Priscilla is it, and what Rob had touched on as well. It directly depends on the people who have the lived experience of this like difference, whatever that is, um uh, be known and applied to the movie in different levels, like the actor having conversations and interviews with the people with lived experience, and like influencing the writing of the story. Like I think it's like it has to be, for me it would have to be like multi-level influence on how the movie is made for it to be done respectfully and authentically, to sit right with me, especially if it's like what's obviously marginalized people, there's significant like difference in privilege and like how they end up to be a varying um notoriety. Like what's the word I'm going for, like having fame. You said like Sebastian Stan, he's well known, and he's well known for a reason. He's like like has normal looks, white male, so like he might be straight too, I don't know. So it's just like the I think the respectful thing you could do in a person of that position is do all you can to use what you've privileged and platform that you have to tell other people's stories who aren't in your privileged position yet, authentically and as like close to the truth as possible. So yeah, it's really disappointing to hear about Wonder. Was it? I think I was that what it's called? Wonder. Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, so that's disappointing.
I got like 10 minutes into it, and yeah. So Rachel has this thing where she likes to Google films while we're watching them. And we got like 10 minutes in, and then she started telling me about like the lack of thought behind it all. And I was like, I'm not finishing this.
That's too bad.
I wonder why.
Yeah, not surprised. Would have done the same. To be honest, I've done the same for less. So
Yeah.
I can't talk much.
Oh, do you know an interesting thing actually? And I think it's a tangent, but it's a tangent that's like related to what we're talking about. Because one of Adam Pearson's favourite films is Legally Blonde. And the reason that he loves Legally Blonde so much is because he says it's the ultimate underdog story. Because you look at Reese Witherspoon at the start and you think Harvard Law School, no chance.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
There's a musical in the West End right now. I bet you'd love it.
Who has anybody seen Legally Blonde?
A long time ago.
No.
I think I have. Again, a long time ago.
Yeah, it's
Maybe not all of it. I don't know.
Yeah, someone should pick it.
It's not gonna be me.
Do you think, does Rachel like it, Rob?
She's never mentioned it, so probably not.
It's a plot twist. It's one of Pat's favourites. I bet
that would surprise me the least.
I bet you the musical is my favorite.
Yeah.
Did anyone look up like different facts about it in trivia?
The different or the elephant?
Both.
What a binary.
Yeah.
Oh, do you think I could ask now that you mentioned I did have this isn't I don't have an interesting fact about any of these movies yet. I could look it up. But I did have a question. And this should be I'm sure somebody has an answer. Is so like as I've already mentioned, I did have trouble with the style of Elephant Man. And obviously, as it was black and white, and it took place in the 1880s, I got them. It wasn't going for like a modern 1980s film. So like also in terms of just the style though, like I got the impression that it was going for something like my read of it was it was a bit campy for me. I know that might be harsh to some people, but like would you say like it wasn't going for something very like it was going for something a bit like over the top and a bit extra, would you say?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like
Yeah,
maybe
in a way, yeah.
And 80s, like kind of like before that.
More like a fairy tale in my sense. Like it was kind of like this otherworldly kind of. It's not like Gritty Kitchen Sink, even though it does. I feel it does have elements of that. It's not explicitly kind of like showcasing the world as it was in the 1800s. It is this kind of like this story told, and like in like a fairy tale aspect, like of what's the word? I believe it's just more like it's kind of embellishes a lot of things. Kind of like in the real story of Joseph Merrick, he's similar, but they did take liberties in the story in terms of like him being like kidnapped and taken to France to go back into the world of freak shows and stuff, and elements of like the Bites character being there. I think a lot of those things are kind of like, like I said before, very Charles Dickens approach to it, very abstract and a bit like a turn on the kind of the not absurd, but more of a classic Dickensian viewpoint of the way the London was in that era. So there is. I wouldn't say campy. I would just say something a bit like Dickensian. That's the way I'd say it.
It was the best of times. It was the best of times. You stupid monkey.
Yeah, I think I saw it as being a bit of like stylistically, it's a bit of a what if. So it's like what if in the 1880s you could make a feature film? Like, what would it look and sound like?
Yeah.
What if there was an elephant man?
Even like David Lynch was like, he would use real life sets and everything about it will be authentic. It wouldn't be anything artificial. But you could see that some of the long shots, there was a lot of the skies were very abstract, very extended with paintings, and if the blue screens weren't a thing then, but it was more like they extended like the landscape to look a bit like artificial, not on purpose, but just something was off about it. It was a very kind of handmade quality, and I feel like that's obviously what he was going for. It had this little element of like realness to it all, and obviously the beginning where like you have the infamous kind of origins of Merrick, where his mother was trampled by the elephant, and it was such in a weird dream-like state. It's kind of goes in Lynch's style so well, because it's kind of like, did this happen, did this not? And in real life it probably didn't. It's just these old wives' tales where the rumors where Merrick's mother had an encounter with a rogue elephant. But in terms of, it was kind of like conflicting things where like elephants escaped from London Zoo in the 1800s, and it was around the time of Joseph Merrick's birth. So these two things got convoluted into one, and so you kind of Lynch did this great way of kind of making it like you can think it's so kind of not only abstract but very ambiguous. So you can think that could this have happened, could this have not? But it kind of lends itself so well to the story. It just is a nice little added touch. That's kind of the vibe. I feel that kind of sets the tone at the beginning of the film. It's just not really as it happened, but it's the mood that you're going for rather than the fact.
Yeah, the mood definitely comes across. Sorry.
Emmanuel, I've got another. Well, I don't know about a fact, but I mean it is a fact. Fuck it. Did anyone else catch Dexter Fletcher?
Yes, yeah. I don't know if anyone knows him though, apart from me. No. Maybe Rob.
Very good with names, so I need more.
Okay, I just put his face in the chat.
Yeah, never guess what films he's directed.
What?
Eddie the Eagle. Yeah, that's the first thing that came to my head.
I'm not sure I've seen that, or I forgot it.
What else did
I
he
have seen it?
Why has my mind gone blank?
So is he an actor-director? What?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not reckon. What was his role in a different?
He's the little kid in the not the first kid, but the other one in the. Was it in
Bites' kid?
Yeah, Bites his kid. Yeah. Wait, he was the first kid then. My memory's just lost me.
Really?
Yeah. For some reason, I thought he was the second one that kind of racked out him to Treves in the hospital hallway.
Oh, he also directed Rocket Man.
Rocket Man, that's the other film.
Oh,
Kinda
really?
Oh dear.
I
Man.
can't remember. I like Rocket Man and that Freddie Mercury movie came out around the same time, and I can't remember which one I liked more. I can't remember. But
Rocket
Oh,
Man's better.
I think I wasn't sure which one was which, and I was like, ah.
Yeah, they're very different. One's about Queen, and one's about Elton John.
I think I like Rocket
Yeah.
Man better. I think, yeah.
I can't remember which I liked more either, but I think that's because they're pretty much tied on the floor.
Oh, that's so, this Rocket Man is miles better. Miles better done.
I don't know if Rocket Man's miles better than anything.
Great Showman? You say it's worse than Great Showman? What?
Well, I don't know. Same league to me.
Hmm.
It's less
Oh, there's so
offensive
much-
than The Greatest Showman, actually. Yeah, I'll give you The Greatest Showman.
So many shots fired.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, there's
So
no
many
way they're
rockets
worse than the Great. There's no way they're worse than the Greatest Showman. The Greatest Showman's fucking.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's,
The Greatest Elephant Man.
I just read that
Hmm.
A Different Man was filmed in 22 days during the pandemic and lockdown.
Really?
Cool.
That's pretty impressive.
Wait, there was no one outside wearing masks.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's America.
Oh man, that's bad. It was just I was like, wait, this didn't look like it was during COVID.
Actually, do you know?
What?
I think I heard for like some productions that were like going through during lockdown, like everybody on set would go through testing and whatever. I think that everybody had to be proved to be like completely COVID free to be able to be on set. So some things they were able to go through.
So you are right. But there was, I can't remember what it was, but there was something where like they were so lax about it that Dave Chappelle gave everyone COVID like 3 times.
Oh,
Oh my goodness.
oh, the dingus.
Good going, Dave.
Man.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the people in like the extras in the background in the outside scenes and different stuff. Like, it's obviously they would have been careful about it, but obviously they purposely did it so that it didn't seem like it was filmed at that time,
Mhm.
so that it didn't date it, which is interesting.
Well, do you think, like, depending, I can't remember exactly, like, is it unreasonable to think that they might have expected the extras to do the testing too?
Yeah, I imagine they would have done.
Yeah, they would have.
Yeah.
It's just it puts another level to it that they thought about not just being careful, but they also was just like, we don't want this film to be dated because of what's going on at this time.
Mhm. Yeah.
So instead of just taking the easy way and saying, well, you all wear a mask, you do this, you do that, they went through all the testing and everything to, I guess, make it even better visually in the end, which is interesting.
Yeah. I have a question. Was there some sort of like symbolism with the ceiling that I didn't fully get? I'm starting to think kind of there is parallels where it's like falling apart and then like his face is falling apart as well. Is that it?
Oh, I think it was. I feel like it's multiple levels personally. Like, whoops, sorry. Camilla just called me. I think it's on multiple levels. I think, yeah, his face is falling apart. His like different, like he's starting to fall apart bit by bit. Even like his grip on himself, how he relates to the world. And it's just another representation of he couldn't get it together enough to even approach the building owner to kind of like when it first happened, and it sounds like because he left it, then the building owner then had to go for gallstones removal, whatever. So he was maybe out for a week or whatever. But like he can't kind of he can't kind of handle a lot of this stuff together. And I feel like that's what makes it even harder later when he's looking at this guy who, on the surface, of course, we don't know what his Oswald's life is at home, but on the surface, it makes it look like, oh, this guy has it figured out, or it looks like it. And but why don't I? Why didn't I? Like, why do I still not? Why do I find all of this so hard?
Yeah. It's coming together for me now. Like, I'm starting to think about it more. Because I remember there was also that scene where the ceiling of the set in the theater literally falls on him and and like breaks most of his body. So
Yeah.
I think the more I think about it, I'm seeing some symbolism, like the ceiling was his face, and like how he dealt with the ceiling in his apartment was how he dealt with his own face, and like he kind of just like didn't deal with it fully. He kind of just let it be, and he just like let it take over his life in a way.
Yeah.
And it got worse and worse. His face, his life maybe, and his like self-image got worse and worse, and his ceiling got worse and worse, to the point where that disgusting, was that like a rat that fell out of it? What was that?
Yeah, I couldn't make out what it was.
It was gross.
Who knows?
Yeah. Ew. It looked like
Yeah,
it looked like a
it's
rat.
New York. It could be anything.
But
Yeah.
I thought it was comical that that was okay. I'm just gonna jump ahead. Is it okay if I jump ahead and say one of my favorite scenes?
No.
Is when he like loses his shit and he's like wrecking the play and he's like fighting with Adam Pearson on the stage. And I remember, and after like Adam like threw him across the stage and the ceiling crashes down on him. Adam Pearson goes, I forgot my own strength. And I remember that like it's mentioned like he literally did take jujitsu in like one of the things that Oswald did. So I just thought that was really funny, and it was comical for two reasons: the like ceiling literally falling on him. Yeah, so that was funny.
Yeah.
And
You know what's ironic? I think maybe Rob would be the only one to know this, but there's a different man. Basically, the story itself is basically shot for shot, well, not be shot for shot, very similar and very similar to the episode of Pygmalion episode of The Simpsons, season 11, episode 16, where Mo Sizlak gets like a facelift, completely changes his face.
Oh shit! Yeah.
A normal looking guy. And yes, the end of the episode ends with the ceiling falling on top of him. And his face eventually goes back to the way Mo looked like at the beginning. And how he looked. So, yeah, I don't know if this was a complete coincidence or they had seen this episode. And this episode came out in 2000, February 2000.
that is
So, surely they would have known about its existence. And yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's got to be on purpose, surely.
Yeah, it's too similar. But there's no, like, fancy way about it. It's just like, yep, Mo gets a facelift, becomes a different person, but actually realizes, yeah, he's still an asshole. And the ceiling falls on top of it. So there we go. It's the same film.
The only thing it's missing is just like that full break where he stares into the camera with a massive smile.
Yeah, true. He doesn't have that moment. There is the moment where he glares into the camera, like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, one last thing while I still remember about the ceiling is that you know how he was so frustrated with how he saw Oswald was dealing so well with the same appearance he had, and he goes into Oswald's what becomes Oswald's apartment, and he bashes in the ceiling because he wants him to have the hole in the ceiling like he did.
Also, the
Janice
way
is like-
that huh?
Sorry, I was just going to say about the janitor, just like, you could have told me about this earlier and I could have fixed it, basically.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
And I was just like on Corey's point. Yeah, following that, the way the landlord was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna be like, what are you doing? And let you walk out because you seem like a freaking crazy guy that I don't want to, get involved with. I'm not gonna threaten to call the police. I'm just gonna let you walk out because you seem a bit too crazy.
Yeah.
It's just like that was wise, and I didn't think about it. But then we didn't necessarily think I'm capable of doing something like this. But then he stops, yeah, for particular reasons. But then he stops someone afterwards, and I could imagine the landlord at that time was thinking, "This is not worth me being grievously injured. Just just walk away. I'm not going to even ask for money to fix this. I'm just going to fix it, claim it on insurance or something. I don't know."
Yeah. Honestly, him like saying anything at all, I think this would have been a totally different way. It would have made it very comical, but I would have laughed my head off if he had just like done a like walk in and see him like stabbing the ceiling and then just like immediately turn around and walk out without saying anything. That's what I would have done.
Well, it should have been like the scene in Macbeth where it's like, what, you egg? He stabs in.
Oh my.
Yeah. Yeah, that's 100%. I'm not paraphrasing. That's what Shakespeare wrote in Macbeth.
Yep. Can confirm.
Yeah,
Okay, that's the like and like Shakespeare was British, right? This is like when I first
of course.
when I first heard I think Alec, you used like turnip as an insult. I've never heard anything like that.
Yeah, that bloody Donald Trump is one ripe turnip.
Rotten turnip.
Yeah, rotten turnip. Yeah, that's funny.
You, sir, are a big fat Swede.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. Yeah. Should we do the favourite scenes of both?
I have
Release
one,
the
but
favorite scenes.
oh, let me. Okay, so I started off with my I already did one for the different man, and then I wrote down some for Elephant Man. Oh, my favorite, my top favorite would definitely be when so Anthony Hopkins loses his crap finally and goes non-British and starts beating on that porter. And then the porter's like, "You're not done with me. It will take being fired by my mother's head." And then she's right there to like bop him on the head and knock him out to the floor.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Done." We're like, "Yeah, that's what she said. That was perfect." It was very, very fulfilling. That's one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, that was great. Sorry, yeah. I think I would pick the same one, honestly.
That's a good one.
And what about different man?
Oh, I already did my different man one. But I
Oh, did you? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, I threw it in earlier when I was talking. I probably have another one if nobody has one yet.
Go for it.
Oh, yeah, okay. So this is perfect for me to say because I thought it was really funny when so this is a part of the movie where Edward has recently met Oswald and he's starting to keen on to like how much more confident he is and how much of a better go he has at life. And I think one of his friends like told him like as a joke like you should get a British accent. And, like you should be more like Oswald. And then like when Edward is at home by himself and he spills coffee, he tries by himself privately to just start the like British accent thing. He's like bloody hell. Bollocks. But in like a horrible, probably like how I just said it right now. In a horrible way. This is really funny.
Very, very offensive.
Yeah, it's sort of every letter's pronounced in a way that we don't.
Bollocks.
I'll do my best right now. Maybe I don't want to. I should mind.
Oh bloody hell!
Oh bloody hell!
Oh crumbs!
Oh fiddlesticks!
I'd love some orange sherbet.
Oh man, even that made me think of a Simpsons thing. You know the one where Homer has a pile of sugar. There's a guy outside just like stealing it so that he can drink tea. I nicked it when you weren't looking.
God, this is our group. Fucking Austin Powers reference triggers a Simpsons reference.
Yeah, we don't talk like this all the time. Well, not always. Sometimes.
I don't know, man. There's most things in life remind me of a Simpsons thing.
Yeah.
That's very familiar. Learning so many different. I've never learned so many Simpsons references since I've known them.
Do you know what is sort of emblematic of how often I'm reminded of a Simpsons reference? Is that it used to be, I'd say to Rachel, oh, you know that Simpsons episode where, and then I would like say what it's reminded me of. And she used to say no, but now she says yes.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I'm starting to remember them all by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I even referenced one of the newer ones the other day. You know the one with the Futurama crossover where they put Bender in the basement.
Oh yeah, that rings a bell.
I even referenced that the other day. It was the bit in it where what was it? It's the joke about Beethoven. Like I think like Bart's playing piano really well or something. Or Homer learns to play piano or something like that. And everyone's like, oh, Homer, you're amazing at this. And he's like, I finally know how Beethoven felt when John accepted him as his dog.
Beethoven.
Oh, that's kind of like the joke in this. Oh, sorry.
I'll quickly go because like the topic might change before this fits this current topic. I haven't shown Ben yet, but he got me something for my birthday and Valentine's Day. And I haven't become yet a big Simpsons fan. I really have to see that Futurama Simpsons crossover episode. I haven't yet. I'm more Futurama. But yeah, look what he got me. Does anyone get this?
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Nice.
Shake my hand.
Yeah.
Not by me.
Thank you. It just falls on the floor.
That's amazing.
He's good at gifts, this man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Keep going, buddy.
Sorry, Alec, you were going to say something. Did you say it yet or no?
Yeah, I was going to say the Simpsons, that caliber of Simpsons joke, was sort of on the same lines as the only time I laughed during A Different Man, which was when he's going on about Lincoln being killed by someone called Oswald. And she's like,
Oh yeah.
no. And she was like, booth. And he goes, yeah, right in the booth. And I was like, hey, there you go. And then I was just sullen the rest of the time.
Yeah, I was for a good 20 minutes after that one.
That's such a. Oh, God. It just. No, hang on. What was the other bit about him? He didn't know. Oh, okay. He didn't know something. He didn't know something like contemporary. Oh, he didn't seem to know that the opposing force of against the Nazis were Jews.
Oh.
And he's just going like, oh yeah, it's about seeing Nazis, and he's like, no, not Nazis, the other ones. And they're like, yeah, Jews, and he's like, yeah, maybe. And it's like, oh, it just reminded me of John not knowing who Zelensky was. Yeah, and then God, Elephant Man's going to be really, really tricky because I really liked basically all of it.
Yeah, Elephant Man's another one where it all kind of like it's hard to like pick out a scene because everything just like flows from one to the other.
I think my favorite one, if I can say, if I can say the favorite scene because it is the most uplifting. I suppose it is probably the main one. Was when the people of the freak show suddenly in France suddenly come around with Kenny Baker's help, just allow him to escape from the cage with the baboons, let him out, give him his cloak and his mask back and his hat, and he manages to be set free, and they let him the life he wants to live. Escapes back to London. I thought that that was just encompasses everything, just because they knew what he was feeling and going through. He had no say in his future. Anything about him was just underbites his thumb the whole time. So I felt that was an important moment where, there are people out there that do show empathy and kindness, and that allowed him to see for the first time. Well, not for the first time, but one of the time where normal people out there in the real world. There's not just Treves, there's more than that. And it's quite a good, profound, lovely scene.
It's not a favourite scene necessarily, but this was a bit that I don't know. me and Dad watched it the other day, and it was just kind of like something stupid. But it's right after the theatre trip, which is also good. I think that would also be a good favourite scene actually. It's right at the end when Anthony Hopkins is going like, "Oh yes, we must do it again sometime," but he's standing quite close to the fireplace. My dad was like, "Oh yeah, just imagine it's just coke goes up in flames." I was just like, that'd be an amazing ending to that. You just keep the film exactly as it is, but you just end up him setting himself on fire. He's like, ah, and just roll the credit. This is John just watching himself.
Maybe that's a product of its time as well, though, because he's wearing wool rather than polyester, so he's fine.
There you go. Yeah, so I don't know if that was in the spirit of it, but I'll probably remember that scene quite well now.
I have another Mother's Head favorite scene is we eventually see how protective she became over John, and how she didn't fully trust those posh rich people that were coming in and befriending him. But yeah, it was when they were first going to a play. Well, the only time they all went to a play with John, and a lady hands John opera glasses. I think they were, to help him see.
That was the Princess of Wales.
Oh, I forgot who that was. Yeah. So, and she's like,
That was very good.
Mrs. Leatherstone, like giving her like the death glare, like, don't you give him glasses? Like, don't you try to be nice to him? I know who you are. It was just really funny to notice her in the back like that.
Well, that's right. I can't maintain that. Sorry. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's happened to Emmanuel. Is he safe? Is he all right?
Yeah. I don't know.
You started to. Isn't that a line from when Anakin first came through?
It is.
I pulled a sneaky on you. Oh no, I should go, no! Yeah. We got any more favourite scenes?
I don't know if I want to. It's not a favorite scene. It's like a most impactful scene. I will like. It's not a very good like note. I don't know if I want to bring it up now. It's in the different man. Okay, I brought it up. I already brought it up, so I might as well follow through. It's like when they're in I think it might have been, I don't know if it was their first love scene, but it was between Edward and that woman, the neighbor, and she asks him to put the mask on during, and I just felt so bad for him, like that position he was in to be Edward and her not being aware that he is Edward, and then for him to go through the experience of the weird experience of like wearing his own face, but she doesn't realize that it's him, and then her to go on, take it further awful, and start laughing and saying this is ridiculous and get him to take it off. I just felt like horrified for him, and I just felt really sorry for him. Yeah.
She is uniquely, like, just obviously she doesn't know in that instance, but like even when it hit her and Edward are just, I don't like a single scene of them together. Like, I just feel like she doesn't listen to a single thing he says, and it's just like, oh.
She wasn't a very good person often.
And like it plays into how he's just so desperate for any kind of connection that you'll accept it.
Yeah.
And like he doesn't see anything wrong with it, but it's just like, oh, fuck your movie.
Yeah.
Would you ever commit suicide? Like, fuck you. Like, what are you doing? Why even ask anyone that?
Yeah, Ingrid is an interesting character, just because it's kind of like, on the surface, nice. It's one of the few people that kind of like respects him and likes him who he is, rather than being feared of what he looks like. But she still takes advantage of him, and exploits him, in the sense that she kind of like uses him as her inspiration for play, and everything about her like new life is kind of entirely owed to Edward. And yeah, it is a bit messed up in that regard, because yeah, she
making
kind
credit
of
for it.
Yeah, she's kind of making or I don't know, making money on someone's misfortune, in a sense, I suppose you could say that. And yet she kind of has this weird fetish of him, but obviously, like Corey said in the whole scene where they're in bed and he has the mask, and it's kind of this weird ickiness about it all. It's just strange. And so she has her own demons kind of she's wrestling with, because
it is a bloody demon.
It is strange. And it's kind of like yeah, the whole thing was a bit weird. And I think there's one thing about the film that did confuse me when I first watched it was when she meets Edward after his operation or his transformation into the normal Sebastian Stan look, and he tells her that he died, and that's that. And he's a long. What did he say he was? He was a long distance relation or friend or something,
Maybe
something like that.
Friend or something like that.
Yeah, and she kind of goes with it. She kind of is a bit like, and a bit, kind of. She accepts it quite quickly, and I think that's the weird thing about the film is that when Edward comes into her life as the new and improved Edward, he entered the auditioning for the role. She kind of doesn't suspect anything weird or strange about him, especially when he brings out the mask of his old face that is so distinctly like the original man she met for the first time. I feel that she would be a bit more curious and a bit more taken aback by that. And
Yeah, like that's exactly his face.
Yeah, that is exactly note for note, paw for paw, you might say, is him to a T. So I feel like that part of the story is a bit, that still is a bit icky for me and a bit strange for, like, I think Edward, like what's his name? Adam Pearson's character should have been more like the real one, and the mask he uses for the play should have not been an exact replica. He should have just been a approximation of what he looked like. The fact that it was an exact replica kind of makes me feel like, why was she so like drawn to Adam Pearson when this guy has the mask of the man that she looks exactly like? He looks exactly like. So that was a bit strange that she kind of like was a bit nonplussed about it. But
I did think though that was it was more like figurative than literal, because I thought it was kind of showing her as being like completely uninterested in him beyond what she can get out of him, kind of thing.
Yeah, fair enough. I feel you right. It's that the fact she knew deep down, or she herself saw that he was just a normal man, whereas Oswald is exactly everything that she longed for and remembered, because he was real. He was a real person with that ailment. I suppose that's the way I could reason it in my mind, is that's why she was drawn to Oswald, because he was genuine.
Yeah, I think I kind of took it as like less that she, because I mean it is kind of like if you look at it from like a literal point of view, it's like, yeah, this guy's got his flat and a mask of his face and his voice, and he's auditioning for the role you based around him. And it's like, but it sort of compounds, and it's like, how would you not notice? But yeah, I that's why I don't think it's supposed to be literal. I think it's supposed to be like demonstrating like how little thought she's putting into him outside of what she's written him as.
I think that's the thing. Like, it was one of those ones where I gave it I took half a point because I was like, weird you don't have more questions about this, but you are so inattentive as a person. But I'm like, maybe you probably don't.
That was out.
The whole. Sorry, go on.
No, that's okay. I remember.
I was just gonna say, I was gonna agree with you about her. Just everything about her character was consistently like, okay. Okay then.
You're just self-centered and nasty.
She did remember like when they first what was his name as the new guy? Guy?
Okay.
So when he was Guy and they were first getting involved, she warned him about like how she could end up being as like a romantic partner, which like was on the money.
Yeah, she's got stuff going on, but you also she is an archetype as well in real life. I say sorry. Her character exists in real life, of course. Kind of like people like her, and like met some people like that. It is just like, yep, you're an arty type, or you're a creative type rather than arty type, and you also are like this, and you live in this part of America, and you're trying to make it's like there's just a lot of things that line up and go like, yeah, makes sense. Oh, you're going to a nudist colony. It's kind of a cult, but like it sounds like a cult, but it's not really a cult. To be honest, it doesn't sound like a cult. It sounds, I mean, we don't know enough. It sounds like a bunch of hippies getting together to do a nudist colony who also
hippies.
who also believe in like being one with nature, and maybe there's some people who believe in kind of crystals and having them sensitive to your energy, you know, that kind of like
it's okay to believe in crystals because crystals do exist.
Hot take.
Oh man, Camilla, I can't remember what. It's not just her, what she calls them, but many other people call. There's like particular moms who are like from that hippie era, but they these days they still believe in like crystal energy and stuff. And it's like something moms, but anyway, or just certain certain women. But anyway, point is, yeah, I was just agreeing with you. It matches up with her character. Just yeah. Quite the mess.
Yeah. Authentic character.
But isn't that, I don't know, I thought it was like quite just thinking on it now, like how interesting is it that Edward becomes aware of this play being made about basically his life, and then Ingrid's talking about how it's partially based on her as well. Like she sees herself in the character, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" Like he knows she's full of shit, but like she's not his antagonist. His antagonist is the guy who looks like him, has a like was successful with it,
and himself.
Like, ouch! Like I think that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's his own worst enemy as well.
She didn't even change his name. She named the play after him and then went, "Oh yeah, I mean, I've met a lot of guys like with it." And he's sort of like Edward's sort of an amalgamation of all those people, including me. It's like, are you fucking real, love?
That was a weird one because
you stole the paper out of his typewriter.
She literally said, "No, what I'm making is gonna have you in it. Like it's us basically." Yeah. After that fact, it's like at first, before those moments, it felt like, is she still doing this because yes, it's her work, but does she also, because she was there when she heard it, would be like, yeah, he's dead. But she carried on making it. And even when she first saw Edward playing himself with the mask, she did not feel comfortable or didn't seem comfortable. But then that it's a weird dichotomy of like she's not completely, it doesn't feel like she's completely honest, and just like gives different reasons for stuff, and it's just like
there's a lot of like coping mechanisms there.
Yeah. I wish at least at some point during the film Edward had just come clean. I feel like he needed, because he's never, it's like after a certain point, he was never truly honest with himself. After he started going downhill, he, yeah, and I felt like it would have been nice. I know that's not what they were trying to do in the film, but it would have been nice at least at some point that he said he was just like, you know what, I'm gonna come clean.
I think, like, from a writing point of view, it's like, how would that character even react to that? Like, because if he was like, you know, I never moved out. I've been there all along. Like, the only thing that's changed is my face. It's a bit weird that you've not noticed any of this. Like, how would you write a character reacting to that when she hasn't noticed any of it? Like,
but to be honest, like, I don't think, like, unless I don't think almost anyone would really notice unless they knew the person really well, like they're maybe a really good friend or a family member, because his face didn't just change literally. His face not only changed like in the space of overnight, in the space of 24 hours, like they last saw him. His whole mannerism changed. He was a different person. And she even commented on how, like, the guy she's met is a completely different guy. But when he puts on that mask, she was just like, whoa, this is crazy. It's like, she didn't say it exactly like this, of course, but in her head, she's like, this is the guy I lived with. This is mad. Yeah. And Oslo's probably seeing his past self or different moments of himself in the past in Edward, in his acting. It's like, this is amazing. So, yeah, the fact that like, I'm not surprised she wouldn't notice. Like, because he also quite soon after moved out. It's like she didn't really get a chance to even kind of get a chance to properly realize it was him, because he was, every time she was with him, he was just always someone so totally different, never awkward, never this, never that, so like so much more confident in himself. And even times when, like, even the way he would speak and carry himself, like, yeah. But yeah, like you're saying, how would you write it? That would be a hard one itself, and maybe they wouldn't believe him. But maybe from a point of view, he's not telling them necessarily for them to believe, but for him to move on, get that off of his chest, and to actually start taking the lessons he hopefully has learned from all of this.
Yeah. I think.
see, I think that.
Sorry.
Oh, good.
Okay. I was gonna say. I think it makes sense. Unfortunately, it's unfortunate that he didn't have experience much growth in how he deals with his problems, because from what I could see is he dealt with the whole, he didn't open up about like him actually being Edward. He just let it be and didn't deal with it, just like he did with how he lived with his face. Like he just like didn't deal with it, he avoided it, and let it be. And so that it makes sense in terms of just like continuity with his character. Like it's unfortunate for us that we don't get to see much growth, but yeah, it makes sense. And it also makes sense that like she didn't really cotton on that he was Edward, even though like she had like a relatively close friendship with him and was neighbors. Like I think it kind of just falls in line with her kind of like self-improved like character, I guess you could say. So yeah, that's just what I was thinking.
Oh, I like that element though, because I don't think it's not like a typical thing that you see a character regress rather than grow. So I quite like that aspect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I think if there was kind of like more around him sort of coming to terms with like who he is and then confessing that like he's the same person and that kind of stuff. I think like for it to be consistent with her character and sort of like what you know of her and what you've been shown of her, so like up until that point, if it had happened, you'd have to have her react in a way that was kind of like unbothered by it and just like, okay, move on, sort of thing. And then I think if you did something like that, it's kind of making the point that's already been made. So I don't know. I think it'd be a tricky one if they did decide to do it.
It'd be a very different movie.
Mm.
Fair. I just, I think I just would have liked a slightly different ending scene from him looking into the camera. Like that.
I did think
it just feels so rushed.
Yeah, I think I didn't. Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of how it all ended up. I think I like me myself would have preferred maybe just personally my taste to for him to just like come clean and see what her reaction was and how they would go from there. I'd be interested to see that alternate universe. But in terms of just like the whole what actually happened in the movie, what also just bothered me a bit is like I get how like they felt he caused a lot of conflict. There was serious conflict between them, when he came in and stormed in and like I thought he was going to kill Oswald. Like he snapped, right? And like attacked him on the stage. And they managed to patch things up after that, I guess because Oswald felt so bad for causing the ceiling to fall on him. So like I get that. I get like okay, and because they cut him out of the play, so like I guess they felt bad about that too. I kind of got why they're taking care of him in like his broken cast. But then to go further on, like what I didn't fully understand is how they were so accepting of him. Like he killed somebody in a rage. He killed somebody in their apartment, and they still like were all together as old people after it all. And
I don't think he's dead. Actually, maybe he is. How long was he in there? Was he? Yeah, they were old and gray.
And it would have been like from what the little legality, like murder of passion is like less of a it's like a lower on the rungs.
Yes. So maybe he got like 20-something years or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like 30 years. Like did I guess what they call one? Is that one life sentence?
Maybe.
I'm not sure. But yeah, fair. Yeah.
Yeah, life with purpose.
Yeah. Saying that, I was just thinking on another kind of level, his face at the end does still kind of make sense, but from their point of view, I kind of forgot how long he spent in jail and how we all know and hear so often how jail changes people. And if that was his life, that became his life for like 20 or 30 years. And now he's out again. There's probably a lot, even more he's got to sort through. Like it is a weird one for us because we literally just saw him a minute ago, much younger. So yeah, it is a weird one. But if I think about it, yeah, it makes sense. He's still not quite stable. Like if we think about all the other films when people have like they've been in jail, he's got all the baggage, baggage and stuff before jail, then the stuff from in jail. Now he's out in society again, and even though he has a normalish looking face, he might find it really hard to find work because he just got out of jail in America's really hard. So it's just like he's probably got a whole ton of stuff going on. We as an audience, I don't feel like we have enough time necessary to soak all that in, of course. But like, yeah, yes, it makes sense his face is like that at the end, but yeah, the ending could have still been different. It didn't have to
Be
I don't know.
bad.
Yeah, like even when he like goes and stabs the guy, like could he not have just tried to beat him up, like, and then fall on the floor, and then be left and just be feeling pitiful for himself? I don't know. It felt like such a kind of, why did you have to go like from, I don't know, from like 20 to 100 or something? Why was this done? Like,
I've been.
I like how they.
Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I'll quickly like interject, and then you could continue what you're saying. From my perspective, like, it wasn't a 20 to 100 out of nowhere. This is what happens when you avoid issues and don't deal with them and let it come up to a boiling point, and
Yeah.
this is pushed over the edge. Like,
Oh yeah, I completely agree as well.
You stab a fitness instructor, and then you go to jail, and then 20 years later, you talk to people like it didn't happen, and they join a nudist colony, and you smile at the camera and go, "Yeah."
I think it's kind of like it's maybe all fallen into place for me because I think I was with you before, but now I'm thinking about it and I'm like, well, maybe it is interesting because it's kind of like the whole thing with her not realizing it's him and like being sort of uninterested in him unless it's like, you know, the previous version of him, and then that kind of like leading up to him being so kind of like frustrated with what he's got going on, that he stabs the guy and then ends up in prison, and then he comes out of prison and it's still as if he's done nothing. And it's like, Jesus. it's like you literally killed a guy and they still are more interested in this nudist Connolly. Like it's...
Oh no, not nudist Connolly.
I thought I got away with that.
No, it's because I'm not Ingrid and I'm listening to what you're saying.
But yeah, I think that's actually quite interesting now that I've thought of it in that way. Like, it's kind of like he spent so long with Ingrid being uninterested in him, and it's led to him putting himself in jail for so long, and she's still not interested in it. I think yeah, that's pretty interesting.
I think that
Yeah.
the nudist, like, it was I think the whole of them like still being together and going off to a nudist colony, and there's drugs like acid, LSD, whatever. I think this was just like further like piling on to like how good of a situation he was missing out on. I think it was just further stuff to drive him up the wall.
Yeah, I think it's like there's kind of like two parallels that are sort of building, and I think maybe I didn't give it that credit before, but now we've spoken about it, I actually think it's quite well done.
Well, fuck you. You don't know what you're talking about.
It's good.
No.
Even the bit that wasn't.
Definitely not. No, I'm not accepting this. I'm going home. And on that note,
Yeah, Eric, what is your next film?
thank you, Ben. My next film is a bit of an easier ride for people. It's going to be the second cinematic masterpiece, not universe. Fuck that. It's going to be the second cinematic masterpiece of the round. Yeah, it's cinematic masterpiece, The Mummy with Brendan Fraser.
Is it actually?
It is actually that one.
The Mummy.
Oh wow! Well, I kind of did and didn't see it coming. I know you're a big fan of it. I just didn't think you'd ever pick it.
I just
Yeah, I forgot
Well-
that was on your list, actually.
the thing is, it's yeah. Obviously, this round's been a complete fucking depression session, so I wanted something a bit lighthearted. But also,
Yeah.
it's Eb's favorite film, and I thought just like as a bit of closure for it, I thought it might be a nice way to just kind of acknowledge that, yeah, he won't be coming back to film club, and
Hmm.
Yeah. won't be picking this. So I thought I'd do it for her.
That's nice. It's one of Camilla's favorites as well. So I've seen it
Yeah,
a
that's
few times recently.
I can't deny how good of a film it is.
it's on my list.
It's-
Well, it was on my list.
I have nothing against it. I think it's fine. Ish. I just don't love it. It's just, it's all right. It's just well done.
Did you say you think it's fine-ish?
Yeah.
I don't know what I said. Let's say yes.
It's okay.
It's okay. Ish.
You did it again.
No, that was on purpose that time. But yeah, Camilla will be happy. She'll be like, yeah, any excuse to watch that again.
Well,
Yeah, honestly,
I'm going to give it one for impact because it accidentally started The Rock's acting career.
Oh, Well, fair enough.
What?
Well, this film didn't. The sequel.
Yeah, but well, exactly. If it didn't exist, it wouldn't have a sequel.
That's I don't know. To me, that's not a bad thing.
Well, it's not a bad thing to have started The Rock's acting career.
Yeah.
We will never agree on this.
It is a net negative for the world.
The Rock is in the Mummy franchise.
Yeah, he was in the Scorpion King, wasn't he?
Scorpion
He was the
King.
Scorpion King, in fact.
Oh, I
Yeah.
forgot.
All I will say is, while I don't necessarily love his acting or anything, I think
that's
he's
good. It
brought.
doesn't exist.
I think he's brought smiles and enjoyment to a lot of people.
I
And
think
a lot
someone else
of-
could have done the same.
Huh?
I said I think someone else could have done the same.
Yeah, many people could have done the same, but at the end of the day, I mean, he did it. Good on him.
he did.
Oh, and when
He's just
I was nodding in agreement, but I thought you were talking about Brendan Fraser, but now I realize you're talking about The Rock, right?
Oh no, I'm fine with Brendan Fraser. I'm a big fan of Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
in fact.
Brendan Fraser's a
No
fucking
one
G.
it's like of Brendan Fraser.
I like Brendan.
Brendan
Fraser
Fraser's
more
the
than The Rock.
man.
I'm
Yeah.
on the fence with The Rock, whatever.
I think everybody does or should.
If anyone hates on Brendan Fraser, they're evicted from film.
Yeah.
Do you know The Rock's just released a T-shirt that says "I want your soul," and you can draw your own conclusions from that.
That's quite ominous.
Because I have none of my own.
I've bought like several already.
Oh my goodness.
The
Fucking hate The Rock. Yeah, fair enough. I'll give it a 1 for impact. Also.
Yeah,
Aw,
The Mummy.
no, but for
We're watching
Brendan
the Tom Cruise
Fraser,
one.
for Brendan
Yeah.
Fraser, it was really good.
I feel like Brendan Fraser would be on our side.
I feel like Brendan Fraser would be like, fair enough.
You know what? Yeah, he's just such a cool guy. Be like, you know what? Yeah, Dwayne.
None of us meant it.
Yeah, the hierarchy of the DC universe changed, and therefore Brendan Fraser's film, where he played the DC character, was deleted thanks
Oh my
to
god,
Warner Bros.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, nice going, Dwayne.
That's such a Rock circular narrative.
Yeah, Dwayne wanted to have his little project where he got to fucking masturbate on screen, and so everyone else's projects had to suffer.
And then The Rock's project failed anyway. Oh, that's the quintessential Rock story.
Oh, bad.
Anyway,
Excuse me.
take that, Emmanuel.
I'm not backing anyone up. I was just trying to be neutral. Since I know so little about all of his mess and watch almost nothing with him in it. So
There we go.
You're living my dream.
oh man.
Wait, on a serious note, like, is it, or I know that Rob said that he could talk for hours about this. Maybe I'm like opening Pandora's box, but like, is it just like his
I want to go to sleep.
but no, like,
You still can.
the nutshell, give me the nutshell. Like, is it just like is he a problematic person, or is it just like his acting that we don't like? Like, what?
Before you answer, are we recording still? So I would like
I
this
can turn that
immortalized.
off.
No. I want it on camera. I want it recorded.
Oh, okay.
Oh man.
Yeah, Dwayne, are you listening right now? Listen.
So my thing with The Rock is that my headline issue is just that he's like really dishonest about everything. And this goes back like to when he was like in wrestling for the first time, and then he left wrestling to go into Hollywood and then went back to wrestling. Like it stems from them, because there was a thing. So like his dad was Rocky Johnson, who was another wrestler, and he was the first black champion in wrestling history. Like him and Tony Atlas were tag team champions. He was the first black champion. And there was this whole thing where The Rock apparently used to deny that he was his dad, and he used to deny that there was like that he had a black dad and like all this kind of stuff. And he used to say that he was fully Samoan, and like that kind of stuff is like shit anyway. And then like there's kind of like less severe stuff later on. So like he went into Hollywood, went back to wrestling, and every time he went back to wrestling, he used to do this whole thing of like, oh, I wish I could be here because I love it here. And it's like, you've made the choice to go into acting, and like, that's all right. Like, you don't have to pretend you haven't. And that rubbed me up the wrong way as well. And then like, ever since then, it's just been like a string of things where like, so people call it like rock maths. So when he does like any kind of film, like he'll always like big up one particular, like very specific aspect of it so that he can act as if it's like this history changing thing. When it just turns out that it's not like, it's nothing special. It's just, it's the only thing with that certain set of permutations that he's put on it. So like, it'll always be things like, oh, this is the biggest holiday film released by this particular studio under this producer in this year. And like, and it's like, yeah, it's the only one. Of course it's the biggest. Like it's, and just loads of things like that where he'll like, basically like, he will tell the truth, but in a way where he might as well be lying, because it's like, it's just like, he's setting the parameters for what he's saying in such a way that what he says can't be wrong, but it also means nothing, and that annoys me.
The greatest lie.
There's also a thing recently, right? So he's become a board member of WWE now, and he's done this big thing where like he's made this character where he calls himself the final boss. And he's made this massive thing about how he owns WWE, and he's now on the board, so now he's controlling everything. It came out the other day, he owns 0.23% of it. And it's like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, it's just this string of things where he's like presenting something that's just like completely false. And when he came back to WWE as well, like, this is such a gross thing. So like every year before WrestleMania, they have a Hall of Fame ceremony. And he got Muhammad Ali's widow to present him with a title belt, which said like it's just such a like gross thing. And now he keeps doing this thing where he's like, oh yeah, this title, which was presented by me, which was presented to me by Muhammad Ali's widow. And it's like, you told her to do it. Like, it's like you, like it's just really, it's just
so
really
funny.
like sickly.
It's so funny that Freudian slip was just like, I presented this by me.
And
It's frog bottom.
Another thing that annoyed me as well, right? So when he came back to WWE, there was a story that had been going on for 2 years with this guy named Cody Rhodes. And Cody Rhodes basically came back to WWE, had this really long story where he was chasing the world title, and there's another event in WWE called the Royal Rumble, and traditionally the winner of the Royal Rumble will get the main event at WrestleMania and they'll get the title shot. That's been going for like 35 years. And so you've got this 2-year story where Cody Rhodes is chasing the title, a 35-year history of this match where the winner of it gets a title shot. Cody Rhodes won this match as part of this story. So behind this win, you've got a 2-year story for him and a 35-year tradition for the match. And then The Rock came in and just went, oh no, I'm going to take the title match now. And it's like, you can't just like rubbish 2 years of storyline and 35 years of history because
my
you went
goodness.
headline WrestleMania, now you're
I
back.
think I remember this vaguely. It being, I think I was like kind of pissed. I was like, what the crap is this? And then I forgot all about it.
But it's just like, man, like, how big does your ego have to be that you think you can just come back into the WWE and go, okay, everything that's happened before I've come back now doesn't matter, including this 35-year-long tradition. Like, it's just insane. Like, I can't comprehend like how you can have an ego that big that makes you think that that's okay. And people reacted to it so badly that he went back on it and then presented it as if that was his idea all along. And it was like, no, people have already invested in that match. You didn't need your input. Yes.
So I don't have much to say for the ego thing. That all sounds pretty solid. In terms of this, like, on a like more serious note, and something that I don't have full authority to say, I don't know what the word is, but I do have a very big parallel to what I learned in terms of, just like you mentioned, him wanting to pretend or lie that he didn't have like black ancestry, and this is where I'm lack knowledge is like the lived experience of like a Samoan person versus a black person. And I honestly, I would guess that in terms of just like, I could kind of understand why, in terms of like how it relates to me, like I learned eventually that if somebody is indigenous and they can pass for non-indigenous, some people will prefer to not disclose that they're indigenous because they would then avoid like discrimination for being indigenous. So it's just like, in terms of that, I could maybe understand maybe that being the motivation. I don't know. I can't say what his motivation was, but like it might have been something different and not as admirable. But I could just to say that that's something that I learned later in my adult life, that somebody indigenous would literally want to cover that up so they wouldn't experience the discrimination that can come with that. So
There's a film called Passing, which you might be interested in. It's all about that kind of thing. I think it's on Netflix. It is over here. I don't know if it will be for you. But yeah, it's quite interesting if you're interested in that.
I would. It's called Passing, and like Netflix is really easy to access through VPN, like other countries. So.
Oh yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I think that because, like, yeah, you can totally look at it as if it could be an innocent thing, but it's just like when it's The Rock and when there's so many other things compounding it, it's just like, yeah, what was your motivation? Like, it's
yeah. This is what can easily happen, you know. We see how many times we see it, like, you know, when somebody gets too much popularity, too much money, not everybody can like keep their integrity if they had it in the first place. So it's.
Oh, do you know what? Oh, no. It was. So there's another thing, right? So there's a
the Pandora's box is deep and extensive.
Yeah.
In WWE, there's quite a famous family. So like it's the Anoa'i family. They're Samoan, and yeah, there's probably been about like 20 wrestlers in WWE from this family, like multiple world champions. Like they're like very well respected as like a family in wrestling. And it was so funny because they did this storyline where it was like, oh, like it was basically like a faction. They called themselves the Bloodline, So it was like 5 of them, and they were like cousins, brothers, and that kind of thing. And it was another time where The Rock came back and inserted himself into something that he had nothing to do with. So you had the bloodline. It was led by Roman Reigns, and then The Rock came back and he was like, "Oh, the head of the table's here now," and he basically took over the faction. Made this massive thing about like how it was his family and like he was the high chief of the family and all that kind of stuff. And it was so funny because he showed a graphic of the family tree, and the family tree was the Anoa'i family, and then one of them was mates with his granddad, and that's how he's part of the family. It's just like, man.
Aw.
Man. That is. I did not know all this stuff, but yeah, how you feel? Very justified.
Mhm. I have a fun tangent to kind of but
Is it a desperate turn of the wheel away from Dwayne Johnson?
it's a what would you call it? Maybe like a 45-degree turn. But like if I was talking about this with my brother yesterday about just like different, he does the eyebrow thing, right? And it doesn't help that only 2 of us have our video on, but I want to know how many people could raise one eyebrow. Yeah,
I mean,
we got it.
you can't really tell with me because they're all blonde and shit, but
People's
You look pretty sinister there, man. I can't even turn my video on. I don't know what's going on here.
Well,
And Ben, can you guys, or Ben or Alec, can you do the other eyebrow? I can only do it if I wink.
Oh, actually, I struggle to do the other one.
It's hard to do the other one.
Yeah.
wait, so this is my dominant one, and then that's what. Oh wait, did you mean do the eyebrow or the wing?
Oh, I can't do the I could do, this is my good eyebrow. But the yeah, good job, bro. Oh, you could do pretty good.
I always feel like I can't do the left, but maybe I can.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
It's hard to move this one without moving this eye.
I don't.
All right, this was a great 45-degree tangent.
Sorry, I don't even want to do it after listening to that. I'm just really annoyed at him.
I'm doing
going to be a scout.
I'm doing it with the spirit that the only acceptable thing about The Rock is his eyebrow. Oh god, there's a show as well called Titan. Have you heard of it?
That sounds familiar.
So it's like I don't know if you. Oh yeah, you will have it. And yeah, so did you get American Gladiators?
What you? I'm horrible with names, so you're gonna have to like describe it a little bit.
So it's kind of like the concept is basically you'll have like a bunch of what they call them like gladiators, but in this case Titans, and the idea is that every week you get a couple of people on, and like there'll usually be people who have like sports backgrounds, but they're not athletes, like they're not professional athletes, they're just sort of ordinary people who want to take on this challenge, and then like they just go through a series of challenges, and then if you get the most points at the end of it, you get crowned the gladiator or the titan or whatever. So it's kind of like sort of like sports entertainment kind of thing, and yeah, there's this version of the format called Titan, and the Rock presents it, and it's just like he's literally just the presenter, but he talks as if he's like curated the whole thing and like hired everyone, and it's just like there's a commentator called Golden Boy, and the way that The Rock talks to him as if he's like his boss, and it's like you're literally on the same pay grade. It's just, yeah. I mean, in terms of like the bigger picture, that's quite a small annoyance, but it's an annoyance.
I haven't seen. Yeah, I haven't seen those. What you did make me think of though is of that like show where they have like an obstacle course and you have to go through it really fast.
Oh,
Ninja Warrior,
yeah.
Me.
Takeshi's Mountain.
Takeshi's Mountain.
No,
Takeshi's-
Takeshi's Castle.
Well,
That's it.
you made me think there was an
Hey.
expansion. I was like, wow.
It could be a mountain castle. You don't know.
Maybe you're thinking about Luigi's Mansion.
Maybe I am, but I'll never tell.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, I'm still recording. Did I stop recording at some point?
Oh yeah. You
Only
can-
if Rob's out of steam.
Yeah, you can wrap it there. I was just saying okay, just to bring it back to how Ingrid is about Edward. It's like,
Rob,
okay.
Rob, who's worse, Ingrid or The Rock?
Oh, yeah, The Rock. Easily. I mean, you know, like Ingrid's.
Tell
like,
us why. Tell us why in detail.
I mean, Ingrid's uninterested and like, you know, very self-centered, but bloody hell, like it's just she's never got Muhammad Ali's widow to present her a title belt.
Oh man.
I'm dying.
Oh.
And you know what? Like something like that as well. Like if he was supposed to be the bad guy, you'd go fair enough. That's quite a good move. But he thinks it makes him look good. Like, it's just-
Yeah.
Very disillusioned with was
Oh.
it Illusions of Grandeur?
And then the whole stuff with Warner Brothers as well. That was so out of order. Like the whole
Yeah.
thing where it's like, oh, I want Henry Cavill in this, and then they said no, and he went, but I want him, and then they said no, and then he hired him, and then it was like, oh, it's their fault that this has gone wrong. It's like multiple people told you no. Like,
Wait,
Wait, what happened?
yeah.
it was the thing with Black
Like-
Adam. So he basically gave people a load of false hope that Henry Cavill was going to return as Superman, even though multiple people in Warner Brothers said to him, don't do this.
What a day.
Oh.
But he went, I want to, though. And that's enough for him.
He basically just kept asking people until somebody caved.
So what happened in the end?
So Henry Cavill made a cameo, and everyone was like, "Oh, Henry Cavill's coming back as Superman. This is great." And The Rock was like, "Yeah, the hierarchy of power has changed." And then Warner Brothers were like, "That's not happening. Like, that's
Yeah,
told him
Henry
that wasn't happening."
Henry Cavill was pretty clear. Like their relationship broke down a while ago for reasons on Warner Brothers' end, honestly. But it's like, yeah, he was not coming back. But yeah, I don't. It takes a piss.
Yeah, because in the meantime, they had hired James Gunn already to write a solo Superman. And yet they still, The Rock still went behind everyone, got Henry back, even though he knew there wasn't a solid set thing in his contract. His contract locked in. If he had a written contract saying that he had a deal with Superman, he'd have been fine. But he did not, and Henry Cavill fired his agent after that because his agent was the same agent that The Rock had, and therefore gave him.
Oh God, I didn't know that bit.
Yeah, it's exactly the same person. So that's
You've
how
added
Henry
fuel to the
was like,
fire.
oh, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be Superman again. Oh wait, no, this was never in stone. I was never going to be Superman because they'd have already decided that they're moving on because James Gunn was already hired to write a new Superman script 6 months before this actually happened, by the way. And it's just like, oh God. And it just makes such a mess because it's like, we all would have loved him to do another film again, but it's just like, no, not in this way. It was just, it was so tainted and yeah, it's just bureaucracy and Dwayne sticking his fingers in. I think the fact that he gave everyone half made it.
What a dick.
That was the thing. Like, yeah,
It's
he
just
announced
like-
it, and then a month later, he had to go online and say, "Yep, sadly, this isn't happening." So,
I just don't get how you can go into a studio and like as an actor in a new franchise, and then be like, "Oh, sweet! What I need to do is tell everyone that the hierarchy of power is changing in this studio, and then get Superman back when multiple people have told me he's not coming back." And I haven't even spoken to the bloke writing the script for the new film, who is also the head of the studio. Like, it's just like, Jesus, man. Like, just take a break. Like, it's.
I'm Dwayne Johnson, and that's enough.
He was just doing
Man.
this to create buzz and attention for his movie, right?
yeah, because that was a reshoot. The Henry Cavill cameo post-credit scene was an additional reshoot. It wasn't in the original version of the script of the Black Adam movie.
I do what I want because I'm Dwayne Johnson.
I am not impressed.
Look at this.
But messing
At
with
this
Henry Cavill, that's beyond the pale.
Mm.
I'm not surprised Warner Brothers was foolish enough to get Dwayne involved in just everything that happened.
Oh, yeah.
And Warner Brothers are bad at decisions.
They are
Yeah.
a hot. They are a hot. They are. It's like, what's the thing? It's like they're a hot train wreck, flaming like garbage truck on fire. Just I can't think of the. Oh, there's some really funny ones like that. But yeah, they're hot.
Since 2010, they've been like in so much debt, and it's just only getting worse. So if this year's Superman film does not hit, then I worry that they're going to sell off DC to another studio. For better or worse, Warner Brothers is going to go down the pan. This film has to be a success.
I wouldn't be
Otherwise-
surprised if we saw Warner Brothers going out of business at some point.
Yeah, sadly, it's just
Yeah,
and it's such a shame. They were one of the best studios ever.
Yeah, we had
And-
such a good time at the tour. That was an amazing tour.
Yeah, the history of the filmmaking since the 1920s.
Well, I hope you enjoyed it while it lasted.
Yeah. Thanks to mismanagement.
Because I suppose the nice thing is that if Warner Brothers did go out of business, then like someone like Universal would just buy the assets and all that stuff would stay around.
Oh yeah, God forbid Disney buys Warner. Let's just hope Universal or some other studio, not Disney, does it.
I don't think they'd be legally allowed to because then they'd have a monopoly.
Yeah, you'd like to think so, but with the current government happening right now,
Oh yeah, imagine that.
they're like, Disney, you can have that.
Yeah,
IP.
because they got rid of the lady Miss Khan. I forgot her first name. She no. But the person, maybe her name's completely different. Basically, the lady who was leading a lot of the kind of cases in the FTC, similar to how the EU have been bringing a lot of this is not fair for the consumer, this is not blah blah. She's been doing a lot of stuff recently, and it's been awesome. But she's no longer like in a role since they changed government. They I guess took her out, like got rid of her. She wasn't good for their prerogative, but yeah, she was very good for the consumer and the people. But, that's a shame.
It's such a shame to see Warner Brothers in the state that they are, because it's like I always have like quite a big soft spot for Warner Brothers, like partly because like when we were kids, my local cinema was a Warner Brothers cinema, and
Yeah.
and then like you also had like so many like really cool films coming out of Warner Brothers at that time. Like you had like Space Jam and like all the Looney Tunes stuff, and like they did some really cool stuff. Like for like kids of our generation. And then when you've got a Warner Brothers cinema that you're going to see it all, like it's always just, I don't know. I always kind of feel a bit fuzzy when I see the Warner Brothers logo.
If they kept it up, they could have been. Sorry. I was going to say they could have kept it up, and they could have been absolute rivals to Disney. They could have had their own brand just as strong. The Warner stores were amazing. They shut them all out. Oh, the Warner cinemas, as we just spoke, Warner Village, they had like monopoly in all this, like a quarter of the cinemas in the UK, which is huge. And yet, no, they sold them all off because they thought they weren't profitable. And it's just like they could have built on that. They could have done the Warner parks across the world, like Disney Worlds and Disneylands, all across Europe and America. They could have done that, but they didn't. They squandered all their IP, and they were just some stupid decision by like some CEO.
Like you said, for a long while now, whoever's like the execs that are leading it and making the decisions now have been so bad for a long time. Even the games, it just oh man, really pisses me off. Every time their hand is in something, you can tell, because everything and everyone suffers because of it. I was remembering like the one of the recent Lord of the Ring games, which I still really like, but it was plagued with problems because of them. It was does anyone know what I'm talking about? Which game?
Don't know.
I know there has been several in development.
Shadow of Mordor, and then you had Shadow of War. Yes, it. So Shadow of War, because Shadow of Mordor did so well and got commercial success and whatnot, they decided they were going to get more involved in Shadow of War. But because of them, it tanked a lot of the sales and stuff because of decisions they made. And then they finally, like, I think a few months in, they said, all right, whatever, we'll pull out. We'll we will let the developers do what they initially intended. And the developers fixed a lot of their mess. And then their reputation in the game got much better. And hopefully the sales went up as well. But it's just so many things they be doing. I'm just like, this is another level of just like, this is a hot mess. Like, none of y'all really know what you're doing. You're not letting the people who know what they're doing kind of actually do what they do. And you're just making everything worse. It's just like, there's a balance, you know? There's a balance of trying to meet your stakeholders' needs and whatnot without going, no, it must be done this way or it's the highway, and just feeling like putting yes men around yourselves.
That's the problem, really, isn't it? Is that like this new CEO that they've got, like he's one of these people that seems like he would be just as happy like selling washing machines as he is selling films, because all he really cares about is like how much money's going out and coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that's why you end up with like these weird situations where they're like writing off whole films as tax.
Oh my goodness!
And like,
it's like if that's all you cared about, this is the wrong business to get involved.
Yeah, exactly.
Like maybe you get involved in a certain part of it, but like, nah. This is no. Like sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, I think it's like, if you're somebody who just wants to run a business, like, I understand the appeal of like something like Hollywood because it's a massive business, but I just think, well, if that's your motivation, then I don't know, like, just do something where the business is the thing that matters rather than like the art that comes from it.
Yeah, in this, yeah, and this is the problem. It's not just that. Like, if they took that same approach maybe 20, 30 years ago, yeah, they probably would still be fine. But in the modern day age where you have to do so many things, you have to be a jack of all trades in your business to compete with all these other big names. You need to have, like, you have streaming stuff, you've got all sorts of stuff going on and so many moving parts. And it's just like, this is a machine that, while it makes money, you're happy and content if it actually keeps even. Like, yeah, it makes enough that you're not just bleeding money. You're actually doing decently. That's when you've done well. So many of these streaming services, like, they just tack on to add on. They're losing money through it. Like, even Netflix, I'm trying to think. Netflix did it. It's either that it's never been profitable and still isn't, or out of them is Spotify. I think it's Netflix that, no, one of them has just for the first year had slight profit since they've begun. And one of them still isn't making any profit and never has since the beginning because of the cost of running everything in the background. And I'm sure Disney Plus is in the similar situation, that is running almost at a loss, but they've got a lot of stuff in the background that kind of funnels money into it. So it's almost like an ad itself.
Yeah, that's basically what Disney Plus is, really, isn't it?
Yeah, just to stay relevant.
Yeah.
Which is good for them, because, yeah, they do need it. But, yeah, like you said, this is not the business you get into if you're trying to make money. It's like, no. You want something like that? There's many other options out there. This is not it. You're just gonna... Oh, man, it makes me think of... I mean, it's probably a random thing to think about, but it makes me think of when me and Pat were talking about, like, the whole, how Manchester United's got into a situation.
Oh, man, that's awful. Yeah, that's really bad. The other day we were in Sainsbury's and Rachel picked up, like, a bottle of cleaning stuff from Ineos, and I was like, we can't buy from them. Like, if you knew what was going on at Man United, you'd know that they're run by terrible people.
For a long story short, Corey, if you don't know, a big family, somehow they know the right people, got them to help them make a deal when they shouldn't have been able to make a deal because they never had the money to buy the club and make the deal. And long story short, and I'm sure Rob could say it much better than this, but the club's in so much debt. Is it like $500 million or is it $1 billion?
Ridiculous like that, yeah.
It's crazy. They have no hope of coming out of this unless literally the team just becomes a shell. I say a shell. It's already a struggle bus. But, like, unless it gets to the level of, like, oh, this is just like another kind of small local team. It's nowhere on the big leagues that it used to be. That they have no chance in the future of recuperating any of that money. But then at the same time, less people will go to the game. So they'll make less money on tickets, but then anyway.
And the worst thing is how they're dealing with it, right? So, like, they're in, like, this, like, unimaginable amount of debt, while they're also paying their players, like, sometimes up to, like, £200,000 a week, and, like, so it's all, like, massive money. And the way that they're dealing with it is by taking things away, like the Christmas party for the office staff. And just, like, these tiny little things that aren't going to make any difference considering how much debt they're in. But they're like making people redundant. They're taking away, like, travel pay, like all these, like, really insignificant things.
Well, I forgot about
that. You know, like, for somebody, for people like us, it's huge. But for them, it makes no difference whatsoever. And it got so bad that the captain of the team offered, like at Christmas, he offered to pay out of his own money for the staff Christmas party, and the owners said that he wasn't allowed to.
Nah, that takes the piss. Nah, nah.
That's why? Why?
It's just nasty, isn't it? Like it's.
That's brutal.
Anyway, guys, I'm gonna go now. Gonna fall asleep.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's late.
I am tired.
Yeah.
But it was a great call. So thanks very much to everyone that appeared. Spoke.
Yeah, good picks, man.
Thank you. I'll see you next week for the. Looking forward to that very much.
See you guys in a bit.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.